Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Wednesday, the 29th of September, 2010. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Hello.
Robert Kemp.
Good evening.
And a special guest, who I will let Rob introduce.
Eddie Ngai.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, and welcome to... you're only our second ever guest, I think. And the first one didn't really work so well because of microphone problems.
Okay. And because we have terrible hosts.
That's true, yeah. I seem to remember when Ho was on the podcast, we pretty much ignored her.
She was there.
She was there.
She did get a section of what have you been playing and then had to leave. And then I forgot to turn off the announcement, so it was like, oh, left channel.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Did it?
I think it did. I can't remember. Anyway.
Doesn't matter.
So,
moving on, we'll make better use of this because he has considerably more valuable information to give. And no, I don't mean that in a disrespect, but it's new technology.
Yes.
Ooh,
I
new
have
technology.
the PlayStation Move.
Ah, exciting. So we'll move straight on to you then. So you've been playing with the Move, have you?
Yes, I've been playing...
Sports Champions.
Yes.
Generic
I've been pretty addicted to the table tennis on that.
Yeah, basically Rockstar Table Tennis can kick its ass. I mean, kiss its ass, second way round.
Oh, it's better than that?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it better just because of the controls or just actually generally a better game?
I think it's generally a better game because you can use the controls to... It's got depth perception.
Right.
And you can spin the ball as hard as you hit the ball.
When he says depth perception, the game actually does force you to lean into the table at times. For instance, if they play a short shot, you actually have to go for it, like by diving forward, which is pretty cool. Or if the shot goes wildly off the table, you actually have to lean down and reach for it, which is, it's really very impressive. It's takes the whole Wii stuff to, it wipes the floor with it. Yeah, the Wii is done. As long as Sony makes as long as Sony make good content, which is what Sony are always rubbish at. Let's be honest.
That's their trouble. Yeah.
You say that, but they've been pretty good at helping developers make really good content.
That's true. They're better at enabling like third parties. Like their first party stuff is like because that's the advantage with the Wii, I suppose, that the first party stuff is really good, and often the third party stuff isn't quite there. But if they can
few
get people to
examples of
develop
decent
for
third party things,
yeah.
I mean, they did really well with Uncharted 2.
Yeah, I'm going to get onto that. I've been playing that, but so because it strikes me that table tennis of all sports, or if you could, or whatever, that would be the most sort of one-to-one really of things you can do because you can literally play table tennis in a living room if you want, if you have a. The motions could be almost identical to the actual motions, and even the forces involved, because you don't need to.
And depending how you hold the Move remote, it gives you a lot of different options of hitting the ball.
Right.
It's like the angle of the bat is important. It's not just making the swing.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's not like Wii tennis where you just hold it one way and just hit it. You can tilt your Wiimote like 360 degrees and you can see the paddle move 360 degrees.
Yeah, let's be honest. Let's put it into context. If you in Wii tennis, do you remember? Right. It basically only picked up and only pretty much made a guess as to whether you were doing a forehand or a backhand shot, or a smash.
Right.
They were the only three things you did, and they were fairly. You didn't get control of those shots beyond that. And the problem with that is it would detect your wind-up for a backhand as a forehand, for instance. So often your character would play the wrong shot because it's natural for you to think you have to, pull your arm back before you swing. And unfortunately it detected that as your swing, which meant that it ended up being a point it forward and waggle it when you want to do something game rather than an actual simulation. Move gets around that because it knows exactly where you're holding it. So when you play a backhand, it's actually a backhand. It knows that you're attempting that because of the position of the bat relative to the screen.
So it's much more proper motion controls rather than a certain motion is a button, sort of.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Right.
Well, it's not
'Cause
like
there's a
they
lot
were
of that
really
on there,
trying on Wii Tennis though, because that was like the simplest, earliest game. What is like if we played a proper Wii Tennis game, like a Virtua Tennis or something, maybe it would have been. Maybe they would have utilised it a bit
Well,
better.
Like Mario Tennis.
Yeah, Mario Tennis, and it was really difficult because you had to use 2 controllers. You had to use the nunchuck as well.
Oh, of course, I hadn't thought about that because movement's in Mario Tennis Wii, isn't it? So it's...
Yeah, and then you had Virtua Tennis and the EA Tennis one, and they were really awkward as well because you just had to wiggle it about until they moved.
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah, you've got a problem there with the physical cable between the nunchuck and the remote there, because you do really need, on a tennis game like Mario Tennis, you do need to be able to move your character around. Compared to table tennis, where you're not moving very far to place your shots. In tennis, you have to move quite far, don't you? So you need like.
There is a nunchuck,
stick.
isn't there, for move? So there is a nunchucky thing.
There
It
is,
is, but it's completely wireless.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
You don't have to connect it.
Yes,
And the great
also
thing about
extra,
Move,
isn't it?
and the great thing about Move is there are no batteries.
Yeah,
how
holy
does
crap,
that
that's
work?
awesome. Well, battery packs, it's rechargeable like the controllers.
Yeah.
I see.
I mean,
So
it's
you
my
So
biggest...
it runs
it's my
into the
biggest
same
gripe
problem
with
of having
any
to
controller.
buy the entire thing again when the battery pack eventually gives up.
Well,
To be honest, the PlayStation
the
controllers
PlayStation
I've had
controller,
haven't died, and they still perform just as
You
well.
haven't
I've
used
had
them
mine
that
for
much,
like
though, really.
4 years now.
I don't know, the PlayStation gets used whenever I watch videos or stuff. The PlayStation does get used fairly regularly.
I've
but-
only got the PlayStation, and I've been using the controls for like 4 years, and they haven't died.
Which is
Yeah, I
something
think
of an achievement compared to the Xbox ones, which my one barely lasts now. I mean, we generally use it plugged in, don't we, all the time, because it's...
Was that an official battery pack?
Yeah, that was the official Play and Charge kit, and that started to go after about a year and a bit.
Well, at least with the Xbox ones, you can replace them and not replace the entire controller. But I mean, if they're good
True,
enough, then
but
there's
if
no
they're,
real
if,
trouble.
yeah,
Is there?
if they're made well enough, then there's no need.
Yeah.
So
And,
is that the
so
extra?
far, PlayStation is doing that. And you can always
extra
plug them
stick
in
thing?
anyway with a really long USB cable if you fancy it.
Oh, that's true. But I mean, are you running out of USB ports for charging things at this rate?
Yeah, because the PlayStation only has 2, doesn't it?
Huh?
Actual USB ports.
Yeah,
It's only got the 2 on the
USB 2.
front, which is...
Well, if you get the original one, there was 4, but
Mine's an original. Oh, wait, you mean the original, the very first
yeah.
one with all the PS2 gubbins in
Yeah.
it? Oh, okay.
PS2 support, yeah, hardware PS2 emulation.
Why did they take out USB ports? Because
Because it
they're
was
cheap
too-
and amazingly useful.
no, it's too expensive to
For a
implement.
USB port, really?
Yeah, that does seem
The
surprising.
hardware was more expensive than the selling thing.
Oh, yeah, no, they were lost lead at the begin with, and then they took away some things, but it was...
Wasn't
Yeah,
someone
USB
suggesting
ports strike me as a weird one. I understand the PS2 emulation, because that's, chipset and board space and things like that, but a USB 2, really?
I mean, the
Well,
Xbox
get that.
360
You never need
has,
4. You don't
has
need
3.
Oh, I
doesn't
don't
it?
know. When both of my controllers have died and the Play TV is plugged in, immediately I need another one.
Yeah, but you can get a split.
Yeah, I suppose you could get a hub.
I mean, I've got a Rock Band
Yeah,
thing, and it's got 2, and it just splits it. So
yeah, I suppose so. But it just makes me strike. I always thought 3 on the Xbox wasn't enough, and so 2 is a bit of a.
I mean, how many
Especially-
USB 2 ports do you get on your new motherboards, guys? Like, is
I've
it
got
like 8
8.
or 10?
Yeah.
8.
I've got 8 on my computer.
Yeah,
6 on
but
the
you've
back
got
and 2 on the
a lot
front.
of things to plug into your computer.
True, yeah, because you have keyboard,
true.
mouse.
But I'm just saying it shouldn't cost any more, I don't think, just to add the
That's
ports.
true.
It's probably just a trouble with the case design or something. When they slimmed it down, they probably ran out of room or something.
Yeah.
Although they didn't slim down your one, did? Because you've got in between the PS2 capable ones and the slim ones, haven't you?
Yeah, I got basically the last of the fats.
You know,
PS
I've seen
Rat.
I've seen the slim ones, and then I don't know. I
They're ugly. I really don't actually. I don't like the look of the slims, because the bit that annoys me most is how they replace the touch buttons with actual buttons that just look really out of place.
Yeah.
It's not true. My friend's got it, and it's still touch.
Oh, they've made them touch again.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because the initial slim had physical buttons
Yeah.
that were sort
It
of
did, yeah.
circled out from the
because-
rather than the shiny tray.
Because
My
Xbox
friend's
went the
got
other
them,
way,
and
didn't it? because the new Xbox, as it's called, or just Anyway, that has.
Does it have a name, or is it the S or Slim?
No,
or
no, it doesn't.
or...
It's just called the new Xbox 360.
Lame.
Which, it's pretty. It's a bit annoying, but I suppose it won't matter in the long run.
I suppose they're trying not to confuse people by thinking it's a completely different format, and
I guess
by not giving
or maybe
it
it's
another name.
maybe it's Xbox HD.
Yeah.
But
I wonder if they're worried about the Nintendo scenario where they have the DS, the DSi, and the 3DS. And
Well, they are bringing out a new Wiimote.
Oh yeah, I saw that. There's the Wii Mote Plus, which has Motion Plus built in, which they should have done from the start.
Yes.
Well, no, because I don't know. It's fairly sensible.
Well, people had old notes, but they should have given you the option of buying it straight away as well as the edition. You know.
Yeah, that's probably true. It's probably just an engineering thing that they.
Well, it's like when they introduced shocking 6-axis controllers, DualShock 3s, when they came out, rather than the shockless 6-axis. They immediately replaced everything with it. There was.
Yeah, but that should never have happened. They should never have not been DualShock. I mean, I'm sorry, but that was an oversight, and I'm glad they fixed it. But they,
well,
$599 and all that.
But the Nintendo thing reeks of a marketing ploy a little bit.
Well, it is. It's like in Japan, like whenever they release a new thing, that tons of people are big Nintendo hardcore, and they just buy it. Like they probably have like 5 DSs. Some of those people, there's a new color and they want it. So I think they deliberately stagger their releases of new like tech so that there's always something new in the shop,
Nintendo
even if it's something you already
Apple.
have.
Yeah.
Apple do the same thing.
Apple.
I mean,
there's the new 25th. Is it 25th? Well, there's a new anniversary DSi coming out.
We're 25, aren't we? And we were.
Oh yeah, and we're as old as Mario. Yeah,
we're the same year. Yeah. So
I saw that stupid advert they had on the front page of YouTube for a while. Where it's
what was that?
There was advertising. I don't know what even it was advertising. It was just some it's Mario's 25th birthday.
That advertising worked well then.
Yeah, apparently. It was like, it's Mario's 25th birthday, but of course it didn't say that at the start, it said it at the end. And it was like, here's just a bunch of random celebrities saying vague things like, he has a moustache and stuff like that. And it's like, people you might not know who are Mario fans. Apparently Ed and Deck are Mario fans.
I didn't get that from the ad campaign they got paid to do a while back. You're using the new Wii Fit, are you? Oh, fancy challenging us to a game of Weigh My Flab or something? I don't know.
Weigh My Flab.
At least it's not Ian Wright.
Ian Wright Fat Kids, yeah. I used to love those programs.
I don't know. So, Ed, you haven't got the wireless nunchuck for the PlayStation 3, which is what it's inevitably going to be called by everyone. I don't know what it's actually called.
The people
clearly the
sold
move
me
remote.
this move. They said you don't actually need the nunchuck. You can use your controller as well.
The controller.
Yeah, you
That'd
can
be a
hold
bit
it
awkward.
in one hand.
Huh?
Yeah.
Surely that's a little awkward.
I
He's
suppose
trying to demonstrate to me.
if you find it awkward, then you have to pay more, don't you? For
a little bit.
Because it's weight, you've got this extra half that's just adding weight to twist on your wrist.
I guess.
It's like wrist strain.
Yeah.
Clearly
if
the
you're
move
playing.
remote has to be called the Move-Vote.
No, it's just a motion controller.
Move-Vote.
Move.
Boo earns.
Just call it a moot.
Another
Or
one
a
that we
moat.
played earlier that was really good was the disc golf.
Oh my god, the disc golf on Sports Champions is hilarious. It's
Is
fucking
this all
hard
in
at
one
first.
game then? This
It's basically
table
their
Yeah.
equivalent of Wii Sports.
tennis? Right.
Just as
Okay.
long as it works better than Monkey
It's
Disc
got
Golf.
it's got
Yes, it does.
disc golf, which is basically throwing a frisbee at a pole with some chains on it.
But it's so goddamn accurate that it just shows just how bad you are at it is the problem.
Yeah.
It's like, it picks up like the angle at which you throw the frisbee, so in order you get like curl and things, and if you throw it too aggressively, it just flops out in the air and stuff, and it's like, oh fuck. And and it also tracks when you release the thing, which was my problem, because I kept releasing it too early and it going off at 90 degrees to the screen.
Right. Is that a
But it
button
was
to
accurate.
release then? Do you release
Yeah,
a button
the trigger
to release
button.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
okay.
like grip, but
It's like the B button for the
on the
Right,
Wiimote.
Wiimote. And then you have the Gladiator duel, where you can use 2 controllers or 1 controller.
That was pretty cool, but yeah, definitely needs both 2 controllers.
Yeah, 2 controllers is so much easier, where you have 1 controller to hold the shield and the other controller to hold the sword.
Is there a limit to the number of motes that can be visible on screen? Like, have they limited it to 4?
4, yeah.
Or is there the weird... There's probably the weird 7-device Bluetooth limit, isn't there?
Yeah.
Probably.
That's all right.
That's a bit odd.
Picturing that.
Would that
way
use... If you had
you can't have
nunchucks,
4
would that
players
take up
both
4
with
of the
nunchucks,
devices?
can you?
But, yeah.
I think it's 8. Probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Because
Maybe.
that's
You'd hope.
2. That's 2.
Because I know if I
up
use
it
the
in a firmware
PlayStation
update.
remote, that identifies itself as slot
1.
7,
Yeah.
which is odd.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you'd have to spend a lot of money to find that particular problem.
Yeah.
It'd be like playing frickin' what was that Final Fantasy game where you all had to have a
Crystal
Game Boy that we
Chronicles.
actually played? Yeah.
Oh, Crystal Chronicles
But
was
that wasn't
awesome, though.
that wasn't like you were buying new hardware. It was like you
Well, you
only
were,
really
because
needed to buy a cable.
Yeah, but the cables were really expensive. weren't they?
Yeah, that's because Nintendo were bastards. Just trying to
yeah.
make rip-off money.
Well, it was convenient for us
hilarious.
because we all had Game Boys, so it wasn't too much of an issue for us. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Why has no
Although
one done that
batteries
with?
became an issue then.
But no one's done that
But
with
most of us had
DSs.
battery packs as well.
No, they missed an
what?
opportunity there. The DSs
Yeah.
would have been much better to make a... Oh, that's my phone.
Ah.
That's embarrassing.
That is.
I told you to
weak,
turn
man.
it off. I heard a text message earlier on, and I was like, "I'll let that lie." And now
Yeah,
it's like
really?
actual
Oh, I
phone
missed that.
calls.
Is that the professionalism that's on the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, serious.
Oh,
Like, turn off your phones, people.
sorry about that. Well, so we didn't miss the important announcements about pizza. But
So the important, podcast
I've got a
interrupting
hotline to
pizza.
the hut.
Yeah, that's even better. Yeah.
I've
were you
got one
just
of those
saying?
red
I've already
telephones, except
forgotten.
mine is to hut. That's important. Anyway, yeah, sorry about that.
Anyway, digress. There's
the fuck were we
also
talking about?
volleyball on the Sports Champion game.
Volleyball.
Yeah.
Oh. How
Yeah, that was
different
interesting. That
is
was
that?
that was one of the less good ones because
Yeah.
that sort of
It felt like tennis on
yeah,
the
it felt the Wii tennis, like certain actions did certain moves that the game took out of your hands, that it was more of a timing game. However, it was hard to get the motions confused, let's put it that
Yeah.
way, which is good.
And there was also bowling that you didn't try out.
I haven't tried the bocce. No.
The bocce bowling.
So what's going on with this move thing? Because like, I didn't even know it was out
Yeah,
You know-
it came out last week.
last week. See,
Last week.
I've missed. Was there an advertising blitz? Because this is
No.
confusing me. Because Nintendo, obviously, huge deal with the Wii, and I can tell Microsoft are gearing up for a massive thing on the Kinect this Christmas.
Yeah.
They're going to push it hard. Sony, what the fuck is this? The move is out.
They've only-
I had no idea.
Yeah, Sony don't do TV advertisements. They do internet
No, but they have done.
advertisements.
They used to, yeah.
Their PlayStation Does Everything campaign has
Yeah.
been pretty good, and with the occasion there, or what is it? The stuff they did with the cutouts with
Yeah.
the Little Big Planet and Uncharted and stuff. They were pretty cool.
I mean, the most famous was the
Microsoft-
launch of PlayStation 2 years ago. Do you remember that Welcome to the Third Place with the duck and all that weird?
Oh yeah. Those,
was
I
like
quite
a
liked the third place ads. They were fucking weird, but they
were
had nothing to
awesome,
do
yeah.
with the PlayStation. But they were just cool.
Yeah, I mean, but you can't say they don't do TV adverts. They just seem to have lapsed
No.
this time.
They
If they
just
want to
don't-
beat the Wii,
they-
they're going to have to. Yeah.
I admit,
just not,
I'd seen reviews for the games come out. That was my indication that it had to be close. But
Maybe they're
I
saving
didn't
all the budget
actually
for
know it had been
Christmas.
released.
Yeah, maybe they are, Zach. Yeah, that might be right.
There has
Because they
been,
have to target the casual audience for this, and to do that, you have to hit the, it can't be
Yeah.
just people like us who find out about these things, to sell, because that's the success of the Wii, isn't it? Is in the so-called casual audience. So I don't know if they're trying to hit that market, then yeah, it's
They're
weird.
not doing anything
Anyway.
for it.
Well,
Word of
yeah,
mouth
but yeah.
stuff, I guess. The Wii spread because, as you say, it tackled the casual market. The hardcore people bought it, and then their mums liked it, and then their mums
Yeah.
talked about it, and that's how the
true.
Wii has made its success. The ad campaign for Wii out on launch, I thought, was pretty weak, and it's since then that they've realised, actually, we're onto a massive winner here, because Nintendo are probably the one that's probably closer to this argument more than Sony. until the Wii came about, Nintendo probably had the weakest ad campaigns of them all.
That's probably true.
Do you remember any ads for the Cube? I remember the launch ad, and that's it.
I do remember the
Cube ad
launch
was
ads.
that one, really, wasn't it?
Yeah,
'Cause that was actually
it.
quite an awesome advert.
Yeah, that was an amazing ad.
It's pretty cool, but it wasn't everywhere, was it? And
Well, they also never really showed the full version of it. It was one of those ads where they started showing the shortened version very quickly.
Yeah.
Well, it was the full ad is a minute long, so they had to start showing the 30-second ones because they're the normal slots. But
I think I've seen some ads for the PlayStation Move, but not as many as the Microsoft Games ones.
yeah, the games ones are everywhere, aren't they? Like when the other thing that Microsoft seemed to do well is that when a multi-platform release comes out, they tend to grab it and basically the ad is for the game, but then they do that on Xbox swish at the end. And I think they did that for F1 at the moment, don't they? The new Codemasters game, they've stolen it and basically said on Xbox at the end of the ad.
Well,
because that's selling really well as well. Apparently, that game's... Yeah, it's pretty good because, it's Codemasters racing game. You can't really go wrong. And there hasn't really been an F1 game that's been good since sort of Jeff Crammond was doing it back in the 90s, with...
I don't know, some of the EA games haven't been bad.
Yeah, been okay, but I think this is probably best since those days. And, it's selling really well, so that's good news.
Although Microsoft got in trouble for advertising Final Fantasy.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? Because they actually used footage from the PlayStation version in the Xbox ad. And I don't know how someone must have fucking taken a long time to look at that. And, and because the only way you could have told, I don't know, could have seen really would have been from the resolution difference. Yeah. That's the biggest.
I'm watching it on a very big screen.
And on a massive screen on an HD feed. It's that's incredibly pity.
Well, I'm glad they do that thing, the advertising standards, where it's like not actual gameplay, and then nowadays it's like all actual gameplay, which is really good.
I remember how that started, though. Do you remember Metropolis Street Racer on the Dreamcast?
Yeah.
The only reason this actual game footage, not actual game footage thing came about was started because of MSR, because people actually thought the cars were driving around London. Right. And they thought, oh, that's dangerous, so they got complaints. So very quickly they had to put a notice on screen saying this is gameplay.
Because it looks so real.
Which it doesn't when you look back at it, but it's...
Yeah, it was pretty good for the time, to be fair.
Yeah, I think it confused enough people because it was one of the first times a proper accurate representation of London was done.
So I think it was.
Wasn't that The Getaway, though?
The Getaway had it on a bigger scale, and that came a lot later. But MSR was probably the first to do it, and with realism anyway.
Yeah,
but MSR was awesome. I still hold that high in my charts.
Just needed to mention that again.
Yeah, damn right.
It's a bit of a
Me
classic.
being a PS3 fanboy, I really want. I can't wait for Gran Turismo 5 to come out.
Oh, it seems like it's been like about. How long has that been
4
in development?
years.
4 years.
It was meant to come out when the PS3 came out.
Right, yeah. Well, they always say that. Just like Gran Turismo for the PSP was supposed to come out when the PSP came out. Now, how long has that been? That's been more than 4 years.
And it was still a disappointment.
No, about... Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. It had those holes, didn't it, between the polygons, which looked really weird.
But that's a classic PlayStation bug, though, and the PS3 actually apparently does suffer from that, but the resolution is high enough that you don't spot them quite so much. It used to be called back when 3D cards were coming out of the PC woodwork. It was called perspex polys or perspective polygons, where it meant that the calculations were done correctly rather than the quick way they had to be done before. And that was the reason. Unfortunately, PlayStation and Sony didn't fix that in the PS2, and apparently they didn't fix that in PS3. It's just not noticeable anymore.
Interesting.
Apparently. I'm not sure the last one is true about PS3, but in PS2 it definitely wasn't fixed. Burnout was a good example for that, because you could, if you drove slowly, you could see the textures near the bottom of the screen start to skew.
All right. I just remember in Burnout 3 the massive sparks on the PlayStation 2 version compared to the Xbox. They were like, huge.
There were some benefits to that, because you could see cars in the distance easier.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Oncoming traffic. I had to sit quite close to the TV to be able to play Burnout in general.
Have you seen the trailers for Gran Turismo 5?
I've seen a few.
I've seen the early ones. I haven't seen any recent ones.
The recent ones, they look really, really good.
Well, they looked good.
It always looks just slightly more photorealistic than any other, game that you've ever seen. Or I don't know. I suppose nowadays you've got sort of Crysis, which can do with mods and stuff, can do a sort of almost photorealistic look. But Gran Turismo, I suppose it's because it's only having to render like cars. So I suppose as an object, that's relatively easy looking exactly real compared to like a person. But even so, it's very impressive.
I've mentioned this before, though. My take on Gran Turismo is that it looks good, but as a game, I've always struggled with it. The problem is that I was never massively impressed with the AI. Well, I suppose any racing game, it was hard to really judge that. The problem I have is that Forza blew the AI and the driving handling completely out of the water. Forza's physics modelling is beyond anything I've seen before. Even in Forza 2 and Forza 3, they have Gran Turismo 5's concept games, so to speak, that they've released haven't matched that model in terms of the feel. And it's, well, at least, it doesn't, something about Gran Turismo has never felt real to me. I don't know, to the same extent, whereas, when your car's going out of control in Forza, it feels like, oh, yeah, I was being a bit of a spanner there, rather than, no, I'm not really sure what's happening.
I understand what you mean. Like,
it's the same thing about the AI in that game as well. The Gran Turismo AI was pretty much path movements, and you guys will know what I mean by that. They don't stray from their lines, whereas the Forza guys would occasionally make mistakes because they were fighting each other, and that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. It seems to me sometimes with Gran Turismo, like that they're going for this audience of like hardcore driving type and for the model of the realism and all that and just tracks and everything. But sometimes I think the people they're aiming for would probably play sort of sim games on a PC. What are they doing with a PS3? Do you know what I mean? I don't know, because Forza seems like it struck the right level in terms of a console sim.
You still needed a wheel to get the most out of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Going back to controller is weird because it makes the game infinitely easier, which is odd. But it just doesn't. There's no point in playing Forza on a controller for me. It ruins it completely. You need the wheel. And the same will happen for Gran Turismo, which is partly why I'm probably not going to buy it, because I won't be happy with it unless I have a wheel, probably. Yeah. And I don't want another wheel. I've got two.
Oh, right, that's a good point, yeah. Do you have one, Ed, for playing Gran Turismo?
No, not yet. I'll probably
Would you consider getting one?
I would consider it. I'll see how it handles on the controller, because that's how I grew up with Gran Turismo. I played it on the controller.
Yeah,
but it was a big thing back in the PS1 days because it made analog control have a point on the PlayStation.
Yeah,
it was a huge deal back in the day. I remember. Well, I remember playing the second one. I never played the original. I imagine that was fairly groundbreaking.
Yeah, I played both. Well, the graphical level of GT at the time was something else. Yeah. At the time there was nothing else that really came close to that level of realism, and that's not saying much back then, but it was still pretty good.
And now they've implemented a physics engine that calculates the damage you can cause to a car, like dents and.
Ooh, you mean like density of body parts and
like if you hit a car, you'll dent your car.
Yeah, which is new to Gran Turismo, and I don't think
if you hit a wing mirror, you'll snap off the wing mirror.
Hooray! Because there were certain things that Forza haven't been allowed to do because of licensing, like wasn't it MSR? They weren't allowed. Just like a different game. They weren't allowed to take licensed cars off the ground.
Yeah. Oh, that was right. Yeah,
because jumping was considered a bit too dangerous for their image.
Yeah, so they stuck to the ground.
So San Francisco felt really strange.
Yeah, because they fixed it in PGR, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or was it PGR? I can't remember. Because I had that, and I had that. I'm not sure if you could.
The original GTs had the problem of not being allowed damage as well, didn't they?
Yeah, but you could always flip them and nothing would happen.
The physics engine was okay, but you couldn't actually physically damage the cars, which was a bit odd.
So has GT5 got proper damage or just cosmetic damage?
Yeah, proper damage. You can turn it off. Right. You can turn it off for to play it in easy mode. You can turn it off so you can
Never
finish
do
a
that.
race even though you've crashed into it.
Oh, you've always got to play racing games on super high damage because it's hilarious.
Yes.
And
Color of Clay 4
who doesn't
the
want
classic
to-
example.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Who doesn't want to crash a Skoda?
Yeah.
Right, guys, I think we better get on to a bit of Halo possibly before pizza arrives, and you're not unable to discuss it, Rob.
Yes.
So-
Okay. Well, to be honest, yes. I've been playing Halo Reach almost exclusively, and it's yeah. I have lots of mixed feelings about Halo Reach. It's like overall, it's great. I mean, it does qualify for great status, but there are bits as a Halo fan that irk me slightly. For instance, big thing for me is the Halo storyline. I've loved from start to finish, even though they took some liberties, let's say on the third one, but that's classic film ending, I guess. They always sort of do some weird shit on the third of the trilogy. Back to the Future 3 excluded, but that's awesome. No,
that was weird.
Oh, I don't know. I like them all. But anyway, off topic. I don't know. The story in Halo Reach, without giving too much away, there isn't any. It's we know shit's going to happen. Shit happens. That's pretty
the
much
trouble
it.
with prequels, often, isn't it? It's like you
There's-
know what's going to happen. So
it's not even just that. There's not much in the way of twists to the tale. I mean, there's one halfway through that's kind of cool. It's not unexpected, but it's presented well. Let's put it that way. The story of it is cool, but there's very little of note. It's just go here, do this, go here, do this, save some dudes.
Did they not use our ingenious plan of having Master Chief be a package you had to get into space somehow?
Well, I don't know. I've still got a couple missions to go. Presumably, the whole escape of the what was it? The Pillar of Autumn?
Pillar of
is
Autumn,
it? Or,
yeah, that's right.
The escape of the Pillar of Autumn will probably be covered, but at the moment, I don't know anything about it. It's leaving it kind of late.
Okay.
And,
where is it going to be? Because from like isn't the
hang on,
idea
the
like
part of the game
all the
is
spaceships got destroyed or whatever?
Sort of, yeah. But part of the game is about this place called Sword Base, which, as far as I can tell, is the birthplace of some of the Spartan tech.
Right.
But it has importance, and the limited edition has the backstory for it in the box. Things like that, because you get Dr. Halsey, the creator of the Spartan Project, notes as one of the extras. And which is really quite cool, actually. It's quite a thick book. And for limited edition swag, you get a lot in this one. So in the sword, she's there. So I can only imagine that Sword Base is actually the Spartan training facility or something like that. And I'm going back to it. So as the mission I haven't done yet.
Right.
So I wonder if Master Chief gets involved at that stage. But
Well,
Doesn't one of the titles of the missions suggest that you're going to be destroying Sword Base?
yes,
Presumably, it's like destroy all the classified information by nuking the thing or something.
basically. But I don't know. I don't know where it's going. But so far the story's been fairly lack, which is a shame. Gameplay itself is just as good as ever. Let's be honest. It's Halo. Doesn't need changing too much to be awesome.
Apart from they changed all the buttons again to be extra confusing.
But they had to do that because if they hadn't have moved the buttons, and I think I talked about this when we did the beta. If they hadn't have moved the buttons, certain controls would have been really difficult. Like the armor abilities on left bumper is the best place for them to be, because if it like jetpacking, for instance, it's easy access to that button. So
There's still a button that I would like to be able to swap with another one, personally. Like, there isn't the option, and it's just because I have green thumb, which swaps the melee with the zoom in. But I suppose it doesn't matter whether you're green thumb or normal. I still think that you ought to be able to. Well, what am I thinking? Because at the moment I've got it, so I click in for the punch, right? And then that's right, and then I zoom in with the right bumper. And I change grenades with B. I'd rather to be able to change grenades on the bumper, really, and have zoom in on the B. Yeah,
but change grenades isn't something you need to do very often. It's something you can do during downtime in cover. Whereas
Exactly.
punch
And if zoom was
and
on-
reload and jump. No, B is a perfect place for it because it's out of the way.
But
Well,
if you
I
had
think
zoom
of B
on
as
B,
a-
you wouldn't be able to zoom and aim. Oh no, wait. I guess you'd have to hold it down, but it'd be kind of awkward to have to move your finger off to press B to go into zoom and then move back to aim again.
Yeah, I
Wait, because
suppose
you
so.
have southpaw as well, though, don't you? Because you're moving off movement rather than moving off aim.
No, I don't have southpaw anymore. I changed
Oh, no,
that.
the other way around.
Yeah. No, I always used to move my thumb off, to zoom in. Perhaps I should change that. I don't know. Anyway, I'm having trouble getting used to, because I find that the bumpers are slightly awkward to have to press all the time, So, because zooming you have to do all the time. And it's fair enough for the arm ability, but I think of the face
I don't
buttons
know.
as more
I've-
main than the bumpers, personally.
Perhaps they needed a bit more customization for people that can't get to grips with the controls to a point. But
Well, I mean,
like,
it's
like,
fine.
like yourself, but it's,
Yeah, I don't
you know what I
mind.
mean? It's like for people used to the Halo series, they have a certain way of doing it, and to change it now maybe is unreasonable. But I personally think it's all for the better. It's the new layout is good, even on default.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always played default on this, and it's it works. It is good. Occasionally I push the bumpers thinking I'm reloading like you used to, but it's.
Yeah, like in Halo 3, yeah.
Yeah, but it's all right. It's good. But my only concern with the gameplay is there's not a massive amount of variant, and this has been picked up in reviews, and that there's no real epic set pieces that we've kind of been spoiled with by other games. Like, Uncharted is basically one giant set piece.
Yeah.
It's like a movie in a game.
Yeah, it's Uncharted fills that role brilliantly. It's
How many Halos do you think they'll make before people get bored of it?
This is the last. This is
is the last
officially the last one that Bungie will make it.
Well, that's
The
what they
last
said about
Bungie
Tomb
one,
Raider.
Yeah, but it's being.
Yeah,
And
that's
they're
brought back
making a new Tomb Raider. Well,
Yeah.
that's coming out.
It's potentially
didn't-
a reboot.
Didn't that
they
get
say.
bought or
Yeah.
moved on to a different company, though,
Yeah, so-
in Tomb Raider?
So if
Like,
Yeah, it's
it
very
moves
good.
to a different company, would you still play it? Halo?
Well, I don't know.
Well, if
Halo
it's good,
Wars didn't
then
really
yes, they
capture
will.
the field, did it? But it sold.
No, but
so
that wasn't an FPS, so I think
Yeah.
they're going to have to
I
be
don't know.
FPSs.
I think
going
Microsoft
forward.
might let this one lie because it has been Bungie's baby, and no one else really knows it like they do. It's like Treyarch doing Infinity Ward games. There's something not quite as good about them.
Well, we don't know yet. I mean, they will. I think they will make more Halo games, but I don't think that. I think there will be a lull. I hope so, of at least 2 years before there's another one come out. But we shall see. But anyway, we are focusing on this one. I think for the time being. Yeah. The story, from what I've seen, I think it's a bit. I quite like the kind of look of everything, but for crying out loud, it's pizza.
It's pizza time at Shake Hemp.
But
I'll keep going. It's fine.
I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity to have cooler characters in Noble Team. They don't seem. I mean, they're all right. I mean, Kat
George is pretty cool.
Yeah, but they could have been cooler. I just think they could have been more.
They could have been characterized more. They're too
Yeah.
soldier-like. Is my problem with them.
Yeah.
Well,
there's not much of a personality between them apart from the cat, which is just arrogant bitch woman. But it's
fairly standard, really.
and she has
But
the
they
most
make
boring
this-
voice in the game, which is the irritating thing. It's like she's trying to sound angry all the time, but it's just she's
they make
really
that,
disinteresting.
They make that not actually a very big deal, but it's supposedly quite a big deal at the start, where it's like, oh, you're replacing this guy, and the team is sort of vaguely annoyed at the fact that they're having to have a new person fill in this slot
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah,
But then,
that is
like-
a bit of a. It's a subtle
But then-
undertone that because they start you do different missions with different people throughout the game, and they sort of grow to like you.
Yeah, but that's the problem. It's because it's like they literally grow to like you in basically like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like at the start of the mission they're like, grr, and then at the end of the mission they're like, yeah, you're all right.
I mean, that's a cool story idea to have you wonder what was the previous member and what did he do that was so cool. But in reality, it's like 2 lines of oh, you've got some big boots to fill, and then they forget about it. And it's like, what? There was a story there. You had the chance for a story. What have you done with it?
Well, maybe some of it is exclusive to the novel because don't forget, Reach was originally a novel.
That's true.
So,
but that shouldn't
for
be
Halo
slave
fan-
to the novels, really. Because
Well,
the
true,
game
but-
should be the canon, really. I mean, I understand that novel is canon, but I don't know.
Yeah,
You know,
they're trying to
it's
stay
more
true to that
important.
maybe to a point, but I also expected more Spartans. If I'm honest, I thought it would be
Right.
like the impression I got was like from some of the early shots was like, oh, holy crap, there's tons of them. They're all going to be going to war against elites and stuff. You know, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, the epic battleground or whatever.
But no,
Like they
there's
did
6 of you. You know, it's
That's it. There's like one team
Is
of
there
Spartans on Reach.
is there even any sort of suggestion that there are more somewhere else on the planet, or is it just
no. By the
This
sounds
is
of it,
it.
you're the only team on Reach.
No. That doesn't...
That's the impression you get.
Just
Again,
doesn't make
again, it's not.
sense.
It's never exclusively said, but it sounds like you're the only Spartan team on Reach, which is odd considering if this is the birthplace of Spartans, as I predict, there aren't many of them. But maybe there weren't many of them in general. So you know,
Yeah, but if they're so rare, then why aren't you guys like considered? Why aren't you, especially Noble Six, considered like super valuable and everything? I don't know. You just don't seem that special. Like considering
No.
you're one of the very.
well, there's a
one of
quote of
6
text at the start of
Spartans.
the game where it's like they think that the assignment of a Spartan team to this job is vast overuse of resources. You know that you're not supposed to be there anyway, kind of thing.
Yeah, you'd think if there were 6 Spartans on the planet, then they'd distribute them as leaders among like the rank and file. You know, there'd be like 1 Spartan in a whole division. You know, just like the Master Chief, 1
Yeah.
on a ship. You know, that would make more sense than like all 6 of them in one team. And then
Yeah, it does seem
censor-
a bit odd that there's a Spartan team, but maybe they all need to keep up with each other. So that's what. you
That's
know.
true. That's a
If
good
he's leading
point.
soldiers, the Spartan will be going, "Come on, you bastards!"
Yeah, because they're a bit like the mobile infantry in Starship Troopers, the
Yeah.
book, not the film,
Yeah.
where they're in like powered armor and they're like walking tanks and they move really quickly and it'd be pointless
Yeah.
to have infantry with them, I suppose. Yeah,
But back to the gameplay side of it,
yeah, gameplay.
it has a weird curve. The game starts out fucking difficult. I'll be honest, the first few missions are really damn tough. The problem
Heroic.
is that elites, the elites in the game are super tough, and they get very clever on your own, like pretty much dodging every shot you fire at them. They're sneaky bastards, and they're really hard, and they take a lot of shots to take down, even on heroic difficulty. In co-op, that's mitigated a bit because they don't have their bead on you all the time. They have someone else to take the heat off. Because let's face it, the AI compatriots you have are rubbish at that. They don't really take much of the fire. They seem to be gunning for you most of the time. And it's a real problem because it makes the game very hard at the start. And then later on in the game, the elites seem to give way to larger numbers of brutes. Not
Because
for
they
a
don't
story
have the
reason
shields, do
this
they?
time. No, most of the brutes don't have shields. So there's that they're considerably easier to take down. And so the game actually gets a bit easier around the halfway point. And so it's a bit strange. But that
bit
doesn't mean
odd
that the early missions are bad per se, but they're quite frustrating because it doesn't ease you in.
Yeah, there ought to be a difficulty curve on heroic that is relatively straight. I don't mind that. I mean, I don't mind that in Legendary, like in Halo 2, that I don't mind if like that they don't increase in difficulty and they're just all you know what I mean? Because Halo 2, the first level in Legendary was virtually impossible, and apparently some of the other ones were relatively easy. But I didn't really mind that in Legendary because that's like a challenge. It doesn't need a curve, does it? Because by the
No,
time
in
you're playing
Legendary that's fine
Yeah,
because you're only
but
really
in
playing
Heroic-
it to be masochistic.
yeah, but in Heroic, you ought to start relatively easy and get harder. I mean,
Yeah,
that's how it should
especially
be.
for veterans because I don't want to play normal because normal is always too easy.
Exactly.
And for heroic to start out that hard is a bit of a shock. And I don't know. It was it's pretty much my only gripe with the actual playing of the single player game. It's pretty solid. Other than that, there's occasionally it's a bit overwhelming in single player, as in you don't know where shots are coming from. You die for random reasons, and the odds are really quite stacked against you at times. But for the last game in the Halo series, I expect that it's probably what they were going for. So, but it is frustrating to be killed and not know why. Like something exploded somewhere that you couldn't see coming. It's fair enough, I suppose, but no less frustrating. I mean,
Perhaps
imagine
you
if
could
you're
do with
playing on
like
Iron, where you can't respawn. and you're dead. You're dead. That's it. Mission over. You have to restart. And some of these missions take about an hour.
Yeah.
So it's to be killed by something you can't see could be quite irritating.
Perhaps it could do with, even in single player, like a bit of a, TF2 Call of Duty style zoom into what killed you thing.
Yeah, like in single player that would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes more sense in single player, but
yeah, that'd be cool.
As regards to I'll move on to the multiplayer.
Okay.
I don't want to talk too much about this yet, if I'm honest, because my opinions of it will undoubtedly change as I play more of it.
Yeah.
Initial thoughts are incredibly well balanced. I mean, really, really very good job at getting the even if you have like the heavy weapons, you generally don't have an advantage.
Right.
It's your weapon choice is more out of preference than and the same goes for the armor abilities. It's more how you like to play more than anything is particularly better than anything else.
Well,
obviously there are a few exceptions, like the rocket launcher and the gravity hammer are obviously awesome. The concussion rifle isn't that good in multiplayer actually, but in single player it's a right pain in the arse, but to fight against. But in multiplayer it's not that great. And the laser is the same thing, the sort of pulse gun or whatever it's called, but which is basically the replacement for the sentinel beam. But
the thing's weird. I don't understand. It looks like the sniper rifle from Halo 2, but it isn't. And I thought
there is no Covenant
cooler.
sniper rifle now, I don't think, or at least I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, some of the weapons I like. I know it's pretty much much of a muchness, really, isn't it? Halo
It's fine. The changes aren't bad, really. The assault rifle's slightly powered up, which is nice.
Yeah, that's nice. It's probably the nicest assault rifle there's ever been.
And the pistol is super powerful again, which is nice. And,
that's cool. I love that.
Basically, the balance of the weapons is pretty much as perfect as you can get. As far as I'm concerned, I don't remember seeing anything much better other than TF's balance, obviously. But
yeah,
it's pretty solid. The only thing I'm not so sure about so far is we have and we're not entirely sure if this is true or not. But me and Zach, when we were playing the other day, noticed potentially some fairly severe network issues where it's like, oh, it looks like I'm winning. Oh, hang on, I've just suddenly lost, and I'm not entirely sure why.
Okay.
Kind of events, or like where beats don't connect, or where certain like even uneven scenarios don't end that evenly. It's I don't know. Some of it seems a bit weird and unexplainable, and I don't like that in multiplayer. You like to feel justified about your death, even if it's not so much a problem with dying, but if you're actually against better people and you feel like you're against better people, that's okay. But in some of the games, that's it doesn't work like that, or it doesn't feel like that. And and there were some really retarded game types as well. Like who fought? You can't get many many game types that work on the Blood Gulch map, which makes its return, called Hemorrhage now. And there aren't many game types that work on that. Snipers just about works. So SWAT, with the less than perfectly accurate battle rifle replacement, the DMR, is really, really rubbish.
Well, that level should really only be played as a capture the flag map with vehicles, shouldn't it? That should be warthogs going in,
or a bomb game. They were okay.
Or the bomb. That was pretty cool. But
the problem I have with it is that although Blood Gulch is a classic, they should have Valhalla from Halo 3 was a far better version of it. I mean, with the rivers and the hills and the things, the level itself was much, much better.
And the jump pads.
Yeah. It was like
on the Hemorrhage, you just have to walk all the way to the middle. Although there are those jump pads up on the side. I never actually went over to those to see where those send you.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think I've ever gone there, actually, either. Weird. But yeah,
it's because all the times we played that level, it's been on SWAT. And then obviously, if you're flying through the air, you're just going to get shot.
Yeah. So far the game types are a bit strange, and some of the
Forge levels.
Some of the maps they've included are made using Forge, which is cool that you can now actually construct fully fledged levels using Forge. But they all have a certain look to them, like out of pieces and metal pieces at that. So they're all a bit cack looking, and some of them, well, I don't know. Some of them, the cage I didn't like at first, but I got used to, so now I don't mind so much. But Yeah, they're just a bit weird. Like, they've remade Sanctuary from Halo 2 using Forge.
All right.
And while Sanctuary was one of my favourite levels on Halo 2, I hate it in Halo Reach. There's something wrong about it.
Something about
and
the
maybe
proportions.
Yeah, or maybe it's just the forginess. You can't really tell your way around so easy, you know. It's not quite so recognisable.
It hasn't got the like landmarks of like certain textures or.
But it is interesting. They could do a lot with Forge, more than Halo 3 could, and that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously they liked it in Halo 3, and they thought, well, we'll extend it. You know,
let's just go all out.
You can't count it really as a negative, apart from the fact that if those maps come up and you don't want them to, that's the only trouble.
No, it'll be interesting to see how user generated ones start filtering into the playlists, and based on popularity and Bungie decision and things like that. Those are usually interesting. But I want to talk more about that later on when I've done some more. So I will relinquish my reach control.
Okay. Well, I'll reach in then. I played a little when I was with you, and I have got it now. But I found that firefight level I played with Zach was brilliant. I had a really good time.
Oh, Firefight's always been amazing, though.
A firefight was great, I'm sure, in ODST, but like it was really good fun. And what level was that? The one with the little bridge down at the bottom and the valley? And,
it was like based on the first level or whatever. The sort of farmhouse thing.
That was great. I mean, I don't know how much you guys enjoyed playing that one inside the Covenant ship.
That was a bit harder.
Right.
I didn't like it because I could use the grenade launcher nearly as easily.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is super cheap, but
I just think that's a great way of playing Halo, because it is really just that. The classic quote about Halo is it was 30 seconds of fun repeated over and over and over, you know, and getting that 30 seconds right. That's what one of the designers said after the first game came out was such a success. He just said, well, it's the elite and the grunts and maybe the jackals, but the elite and grunt fight where there's one elite and a squad of grunts, that fight repeated, you know, we got that absolutely right with the grenades and the shields on the elite and the weapons, everything. We just made that 30 seconds perfect, and then all we really needed to do is build a setting around it, you know, and then we had a whole game just from that 30 seconds of fun, you know. And that in Firefight is just that 30 seconds, you know. If you just want that now, you can just click a button and there it is. It's great.
It's nice that they've made sort of different lengths of it as well now, rather than the epic version in ODST.
Right.
However, I'll take that. I'll say that they've made some weird decisions with the online for that, actually, because you can do firefight matchmaking where it joins you with random people, but you play only one round, and the only competition is between the other players, which is odd considering it's a co-op game type, and so it doesn't feel like you should be competing for the kills and things like that. It's a bit strange.
It's a bit odd. I mean, playing with
it works in the campaign, but in firefight it feels a bit odd.
Yeah, well, can you matchmake for campaign then?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure, actually.
Because I always think that, like, playing with random people is fine, you know, in Deathmatch or whatever, and when you're playing TF2 or something, but, like, when you're playing cooperatively with them, if you play with them for a long time, it starts to get a bit weird. Like, if you're playing Left 4 Dead with a random person that you've never met for a whole, you know, for a whole level or whatever. I know, it just seems
50-50 on that.
Yeah, it seems a bit odd, and maybe that's what they were trying to avoid with that by making the firefight rounds short when you're matchmaking rather than having because presumably you can play a whole epic length one with your Xbox Live friends, can you?
Yes, you can. Yeah. Set up a custom game, then yeah. It's just the matchmaking that doesn't have it. But the thing I don't have a problem with it being short. I have a problem with it being unlimited lives.
Oh, okay.
You know, make it a challenge and make it so you can actually die. You know, so the team can fail, for instance.
Yeah. Well, that makes more sense, yeah.
Be annoyed by, like, idiots just being crap and using up all your lives.
Yeah, but that's just bad luck, isn't it, I suppose? I don't know.
Part of the draw. I think that would be a big change if they actually made normal firefight. Maybe make it a bit longer.
Because that's kind of the same. In TF2, if you join you're in a crap team, you know, and you lose... You know, that's just the same thing, isn't it? You know, people messing up for you. You know, because you're
There's
working
more of them in TF2, though.
That's true. That's true. I suppose it's more like Left 4 Dead multiplayer, which I've never played. The one where you play against the team of them, and you keep swapping sides between infected and survive.
Yeah, but that goes really badly if you don't have a, if you have one person who's shit, you're just fucked.
Right, yeah, I can imagine, yeah. Well, maybe that's why they did that infinite lives thing then. I don't know. We can only speculate, I suppose, so. But they might add it in. You never know. I mean, sometimes they do these things.
Eddie is actually taking his headphones off at this point. I think he knows nothing on Reach. So we probably need to roll into Uncharted territory, literally.
Okay. Have you been eating your pizza then? You have been.
I'm eating it right now.
Right, okay.
So we need to talk about something else, in other words.
That's the end of Rob's section. Okay. So, what, should we do me or should we do Civ 5 while they're eating? I think that might make more sense because Ed and Rob could probably talk about Uncharted.
Yeah.
So let's move on to you, Zach. What have you been playing, man?
Let's talk about Civ 5, lol.
Let's do that.
Because that's pretty much all I've been playing for like a million hours, naturally.
Exciting. Do you know how many hours?
Let's have a look on Steam and see what it says. Oh, only 33.
Jesus, over how many days? Like 5?
Wait, the date today? 29th, so yeah. Came out on the 24th.
It's quite a bit. So, what do you think?
It's not that great.
I thought so. I heard it's buggy.
Well, no, not that I've noticed. I haven't seen any severe bugs. It hasn't crashed or anything like some people have been saying. Pick up the train. Just wait a minute, pause on that thought. And moving on.
I don't know. I heard like the AI of the enemy civilizations sometimes do some really strange, dumb things. Or I don't know if you noticed that.
I haven't really noticed it myself, but lots of people have been complaining about. Well, firstly, and probably I would have noticed this if I'd done more sort of actual combat, because of course normally in Civ I don't do very much combat.
Yeah, that's your style.
As I discussed with Civ 4, really. But yeah, it's like obviously the big problem that everyone has with it is that the AI just has no tactics. It's like now you can't stack units on top of each other. Obviously you need to be like, a front line of melee units and then all your range units behind them, and then you move in a line to protect the range units or whatever. And the AI just can't handle that and just retardedly drives artillery pieces directly up to your melee units and stuff.
Oh, I see.
So it's like
it needs that kind of AI from Advance Wars, the enemy generals, which is good, right? Stuck in there.
Yeah, pretty good in Advance Wars. But yeah, and apparently they made quite a big deal over how awesome their AI was. It's like, well, no, it's not. But yeah, other people have been saying various other vague complaints about various other AI problems, like how they'll just they won't seem they'll be quite passive towards you or whatever, and maybe do trades with you for a while, and then suddenly just go, right, I've had enough of you, and then turn around and murder you in the face for no reason.
Okay.
And also the whole diplomacy system is totally obscured. So you don't even have any indication of their general feeling towards you.
Oh.
It's like, they don't even have different animations, which you'd think would be,
Well, they used to.
And, I mean, in Civ 4, they had, literal numbers, which maybe that was a bit too specific.
Well, they had numbers, but they had, a text interpretation of the numbers, so they could have just hidden the number and kept the text interpretation.
I mean, it said,
and it had the animations as well, where they're, crossing their arms and looking pissed off and all that.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's all gone.
But that all seems to be gone now, so there's no way of telling you how pissed off someone is if you keep refusing their open borders agreements.
Oh, God.
Which they still do. Not quite
Christ.
as often any longer. It's only once every few turns, 2 or 3 of them will come up and go, open borders? It's like, no!
So fucking good about open borders.
Although this time there's even less point, because it's obviously in Civ 4 there was really actual reasons to open borders for transmitting religions and stuff like that, and you got trade agreements and where your open borders
transmitting religions. You make it sound a bit like a disease.
Well, you could kind of argue that it was, but in the sort of Civ 4 gameplay. But so now and in Civ 4 where you had open borders, it did actually improve your trade routes and stuff slightly.
I don't understand open borders as an analogy to the real world. Okay, we allow trade and business with, say, France, but there aren't French military units wandering around our countryside. Why
Yeah,
is
but
there...
that's because they don't need to discover the territory any longer. They've already seen it.
Yeah, but you could just gift them, if they wanted to know your territory, you could just gift them, they could just be asking for the territorial knowledge, the maps or whatever, and you could just say, okay, I give you the knowledge, you don't need to fucking trample all over my farms with your freaking... Oh.
You can't do that in Civ 5 any longer either. No map trading.
Oh.
No tech trading either. You now get weird research agreements where you pay both sides pay 200 to 200 gold up, and obviously it goes up the higher the technology. But
Right.
you both pay 200 gold, and then in 30 turns you both get a free technology at your tech tree level.
Okay.
So it's you get a random one of the technologies you could be researching at that moment, which is kind of a weird system. It's doesn't that advantage the person who's slightly further ahead in the tech tree?
Yeah, it probably does.
But obviously,
that's
it depends on
assuming
how much
you're not,
cash you have or whatever.
Yeah, it's assuming you're not competing directly with the person you're agreeing with, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Surely that works if you do it with someone else who's behind, so you both catch up.
Well,
You work together
basically.
to level the playing field.
Yeah. Although that would be the idea, but of course you can't fucking tell what technologies people have because there's no indication apart from you can look at their units and see he's got this far in the tech tree because they must have this tech to have that unit.
Wasn't that how it worked anyway? It seems dumb to be able to view.
Well,
each
you
other's
used to be able to see because of tech trading in Civ 4. You used to be able to see literally what techs they would trade. If they had ones you didn't have, you could see them, and they'd say, we've got this, we can trade it to you, or whatever.
And they'd be
That sounds
grayed
like
out.
a bit of a workaround, though, doesn't it? I can't see their text until you talk to them, and then and then all of a sudden their secrets are revealed, and it's I'll have that. That sounds awesome.
Speaking of secrets, because I'm just rambling off from one topic to the other here because there's so much to go through. Speaking of secrets, no espionage at all, totally gone.
I know.
And religion,
Really?
totally gone. So
I knew about the religion one. I didn't realise espionage was gone.
But
I
have, they
reckon
not,
that's an expansion coming.
have they put anything in instead, or
probably.
is it just
No,
less gameplay?
this is the problem that I have with Civ 5. It's just everything has been cut back, and they really haven't done anything new apart from the one unit per tile thing, which is fairly major in terms of combat. But it would be nice if it actually made it more of a challenge because the AI is so retarded. It's you can easily beat units that should outclass you because they're higher tech because your tactics are so superior to the AI.
Right. Yeah, that does seem like a serious problem, and not just a I don't know, trivial problem.
Is this true even in the higher difficulties, Zach? Or
Well, that's the thing about they finally sort of admitted it, maybe, if you think in terms of the high difficulties, because you look at the difficulty list and it's you start on the easiest one or whatever, settler or whatever, and it's chieftain and prince and warlord and prince, and then prince is normal, and you tooltip over it and it basically says normal, and then the other ones say easy or whatever. It's why didn't you just call it normal and easy instead of giving it these stupid names?
Yeah.
but then once you start going past prince,
It's like
to the ones
SimCity llama speed and what was it, cheetah speed.
Yeah, I guess. But you go up the list from normal, and as you mouse over them, it literally says the computer players are given economic advantages to assist them. So after Prince, they literally start cheating. So now you know.
Oh, son of a bitch! Well, how
that sucks.
That's just not because they're better at playing the game, but because you're at a disadvantage.
Yeah, it just gives them
has that
more
been
stuff.
true? Has that always been true?
Well, I mean, that's the
It
assumption
wasn't
at this
that in
point.
Civ 4.
Well, it did.
Well, it
admit
doesn't
in
say
Civ
in
4.
Civ 4.
That's true.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't really
'cause
give you any indication.
To be honest, I've been quite excited about Civ 5, and I like the idea of Axis, and thought it looked good, and I like the idea of the simplification, and I like the idea of the one unit per tile thing. But to be honest, you're making it sound like Civ 4 is a better game than Civ 5.
Well, it's a more complicated game, and I liked the complicatedness. It's like Civ
you're
5.
playing it with the expansions. Maybe Civ 5 is taking the same route.
That is
Yeah,
true.
maybe.
I mean, there will inevitably be expansions, the bastards. But there's no
Let's get
excuse to
more money.
remove stuff that should have been there from Civ 4. It's
Is Civ EA, by the way?
No, it's
no, it's 2K.
Ah. Okay.
2K
So
and
just like
Praxis.
the expand.
still.
I think I said that before, didn't I?
Yeah.
But
Bored.
it doesn't. It's like they should have. It feels like they, even with the fact that you're playing Civ 4 with expansions, so obviously things have been improved and balanced with the expansions.
Yeah.
It still feels like they shouldn't have taken those things back out for Civ 5. It's meant to be the next one. It's meant to be better than even the expanded version of Civ 4, surely.
Yeah, because they should be building on what's before. Even if they do expansions, they ought to. I mean, it seems to me like I was hoping the complexity would be almost the same, and that the interface would just be better. So it wouldn't seem so complex because you had a better interface, and yet the complexity of the game would still be there to be revealed. But it sounds like they've cut back the actual game, as well as the interface. Or
It seems-
I'm not saying cut back the interface. Just they could have. I think Civ 4 has a lot of potential in there to streamline the interface while not changing the game mechanics whatsoever. If you wanted, I think it could be done personally. But this isn't. That's not what Civ 5 is doing.
No.
It's weird all this because it sounds like your description sounds almost completely at odds of what the reviews are coming in saying.
That's the thing I've been seeing. It's like I looked at the Metacritic reviews, and they're all like 90% or whatever, except for one. And it's like, and then that one guy is basically saying exactly what I was thinking, and all the various comments on like the Steam forums or whatever, all pretty much say what I'm thinking. But then again, that's obvious because it's like only angry people come on the forums to complain about stuff.
Yeah, because
the people who are happy never go in there.
Have you read any of the positive reviews? What are they saying? I mean, I haven't. I don't know.
I didn't read. I only read like one of. I read the bad one, and then I read one of the good ones, and it was like, well, I mean, sometimes I don't know how to describe it. The thing I think about it in general is that it shouldn't have been called Civ 5. It should have been called Civilization Revolutions 2, because it's more like an improvement over Civ Rev than it is an improvement over Civ 4.
Like it's like an up, like a made more. It's like Civ Rev, but made a bit more complex and interesting, rather than like a new proper Civ game proper.
Yeah, I would say so. And I mean, you could. It's because with the one title thing. It feels like a different game, So that makes it even more so in that sort of idea that it's not really a Civ 4 sequel.
Yeah, but if you were to have a Civ 4 sequel, as you say, one that was just as complex, would you want to keep the 1 unit per tile thing from Civ 5, or would you want to go back?
Well, the thing is that I'm not even happy with the 1 unit per tile thing is cool and all as a sort of tactical thing.
Yeah.
But it feels like you should be able to at least have limited stacks. It feels like you need maybe 2 or 3 per tile.
Right, yeah.
It's like it's almost like they went too far. It was like from massive stacks to no stacks at all. It seems like there needed to be a sort of middle.
Or like a finer grid, maybe, more advanced walls. But then so the city takes up,
Yeah, that's the other problem.
3
Where it's like,
I think.
now that you only have 1 unit per tile, the hexes feel like they're much bigger.
Yeah.
It's like there may or may not be actual more tiles in the world, comparatively, but they feel much larger, because it's like you can only fit 1 unit in it, which means if you want to have a melee unit and a ranged unit, that takes up 2 tiles, so you have to have at least 2 tiles distant.
So it sort of shrinks the world, doesn't it? Because a mountain range literally can only fit, 1.
You can only fire from the other side of the mountain range. It's like if you've got an artillery unit, until you get to the modern ages, artillery units own, like catapults and trebuchets and stuff, only have range 2. So that means if there's a city, then a mountain, and then you have to put your catapult on the other side of the mountain to actually reach it.
Right.
It's like you don't have options then.
So what do you think they're going to do in the expansions that will appeal to you? Because they are inevitable. I mean, that's what happened with Civ 4. We have to admit that Civ 4 did get better after the expansions. It did get more complex, but it also did get better. But do you think the same will happen with this? I mean,
Then again, the fans of Civilization, I think, well, if I'm considering you a major Civ fan, for instance, the other Civ fans I know found Civ 4 more acceptable from the off than they did Civ 3.
Yeah,
that was. So, I mean, Civ 3 made some major stupid errors in its taking stuff out. Like the whole idea of like the weird how it removed things like worker automation and stuff. That was just really stupid. They should. That's just an utter fail. So that made Civ 4 infinitely more acceptable in its base form because it was at least more playable.
Do you wonder if your qualms with Civ 5 are because you're a fan? That to newcomers they will come into Civ 5 and think, you know what, I like this now, because of bits of the simplifications that you're talking about. Perhaps before it was too complex, or maybe they've approached this in the wrong way. That the easier difficulty level should turn aspects of the game off rather than remove them completely. So then you progress through and learn new tactics each game, which would make each second, the next playthrough more interesting because there's more to do.
Yeah, you've basically summed up quite a few of the things people were saying on the internet, where it's like it should have been at least as complicated, and then like if they wanted to attract new people, they should have made easier levels where it simplified the game or whatever.
The Wii mode.
Yes, Wii mode.
I suppose it's difficult to have it adjust like the game mechanics and put them in and take them out without like breaking the game. Like if you had in the same game.
Well, that would be the trouble with. It would take a lot of work.
Yeah, but they ought to. I mean, must have a big team and they've got time. This is something they could have done.
Well, if they've taken if they've taken things out for the purposefully for the expansion.
That's
like they probably did for Civ 4. Let's be honest. That's I know it's a cynical view, but perhaps things like espionage and religion were fairly important parts of the last game. So it's almost a certainty that they'll come back in the form of expansion. Maybe they thought, we'll make it accessible to begin with, and then expand it, and then the hardcore people will buy it from the expansion version. Because they know a gold edition will come out.
I think that's one of the reasons why I waited.
Yeah. Were you a latecomer to Civ 4 then as well?
Well, I was too, really.
Yeah. I waited till all the expansions were out before I bought.
It surprises
sounds like
me
the smart
that they
move,
take
doesn't it?
out espionage, though, because, religion is quite a difficult concept as a game mechanic in Civ 4. I mean, it was in the base version, but it's a bit confusing.
Well, many games have tried and failed, haven't they? Like Spore's religion system was basically fighting with different weapons, like spirit weapons. And
Age of Empires had priests, didn't it? I seem to remember.
And Black and White was entirely based on it, and it was basically build your civilization so it's bigger than the others, so you take them
Black
over.
And White, you are God.
Well, but it had to be religion based, I guess. But it was. But
it seems to me that espionage was such a great addition because it gave you something to do while you were teching up in the mid game. It was. Yeah. I really liked that, and it seems really odd that they wouldn't integrate at least something similar.
Is there nothing to replace it then? Is the mid game literally sit around, build up your defences?
I do find myself spending a lot of turns basically doing nothing, where it's like, I don't actually need to do anything this turn.
But that was a classic Civ thing, though.
Yeah, but I do that. I seem to be doing that more now in Civ 5, whereas it's like I really have nothing. It's like I'm not moving units. I've already built all my land upgrades with the workers or whatever. I'm just sort of waiting around for buildings to finish, but that's not even very interesting. And everything seems to take a very long time as well. Maybe that's just me.
Have you set the speed settings low? Well, so it plays.
No, it's on normal.
Yeah. Okay.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I liked espionage because it gave me something, and no matter how minor, to actually do on my turn while the buildings were being built and the etc. When you're in that comfortable stage of sort of teching up and expanding, it is the mid game, isn't it? It happens on every Civ game. If it goes well at first, you probably have a bit of combat and expand a bit. And then there's a period where you're building up, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I liked that, and there are certainly turns there where you're just clicking, yes, build a Colosseum, next, and the years are going, and you're just waiting around for something so that you can make your move or do something exciting.
Yeah.
It feels like in Civ 5 they want you to do more combat all the time. I mean, with this new combat system, and with the fact that you can actually have proper choke points, so you're blocking off specific tiles or whatever, and the fact that cities can defend themselves and all that helps. Right. It feels more like you can actually use your units to do things rather than just garrisoning them in a city. It feels like they want you to do more combat all the time, rather than, just sitting back and building up. There doesn't seem as... It's like because of all the simplifications in the other game systems, whereas the combat got this new system that possibly made it better, all the other systems have kind of been cut back and simplified, so when you're not doing the combat, you don't feel like you're doing very much at all.
I mean, that's all very well, but this may be better, the combat, but if the AI for the combat is no good, then that ruins it for people, 99% of Civilization players who are not playing against another human being, like you and me and everyone.
I suppose the bottom line here is the bottom line. Do you think Civ 5 will sell more than previous editions of Civ has? Is the new formula going to be successful?
I think, well, I don't think it will do any worse. It feels like, they'll get the initial people who knew about Civ before, but I think it does appeal to new people as well to a greater extent by being simplified. It just feels like it's the Civ 5, like I said, it should be Civilization Revolutions 2, really. Seriously. It feels like they should have branded it to follow on for that, rather than trying to say it's Civ 5 when it's clearly not complicated enough to be a proper Civ game. But then again,
for me, I was put off immediately when you came up with that little graphical glitch.
Which one was that?
Which one? You mean there were more than one? Okay.
Yeah, there's plenty.
Okay, because I was slightly confused by... Okay, I wasn't completely put off by the game, but I thought it was a bit cheap. That you told me about the one where if you turn the anti-aliasing on, you lose all smoke and oil effects from the game. So your fancy-looking cities suddenly become a bit bland.
I'm sure that's got to be a bug. Seriously, that's just ridiculous. It's literally the oil resource on the sea is like a black pool of what you mean?
It's actually just a technical square goes missing. You mean rather than just an effect?
Yeah, the actual image of the oil on the surface of the water doesn't exist. You just have to have the icons turned on. It's that's got to be an error.
That's bad. Oh, you touched on something we haven't mentioned yet. There's that simplified view as well, isn't there, in Civ 5 now? So you can view it all icon style.
Oh, yeah, I barely looked at that. It was I don't need this. Just even more simplification. That probably does help in some way, maybe, but not for me. But yeah, there are a few other graphical glitches, weird errors in the landscape textures where, in the middle of this desert, there's a weird sort of red circle for no apparent reason that's also bump mapped, so it's an actual literal texture error. It's how did that get there? Don't know what that's about. It's just they need to patch it. They already did one patch for a really dumb error where if you're doing a trade agreement with a computer player and you say I want this much gold per turn, when you click the thing to put that into the trade bar, it defaults to 5 gold per turn. But before they patched it, no matter what numbers you put in there, it would still only give you 5 gold per turn. So you'd think you'd be getting something more, and it's no, you're getting 5. So they patched that already. But it needs several more patches to get rid of a few more little glitches and weird things, I suspect.
Do you reckon the release time... Because I was talking... to Gnome about this, of all people. Sorry. a non-gamer, about the release schedule for Reach. And do you reckon they've come out too early? Tried to release early in order to beat the big titles? In the sense, like Call of Duty Black Ops or something like that.
Yeah.
They've released early to try and avoid people buying that for Christmas.
Yeah, it's Call of Duty Black Ops and Medal of Honor, I think. Because it's just due to Call of Modern Warfare, basically.
But I don't know how much overlap there is in people who like those games, really.
Well, no, I'm not saying... I'm
Halo?
No, I mean and Civ, and...
Yeah.
There's Ruse.
And Ruse, which came out recently as well.
And StarCraft.
But that was
StarCraft, yeah. It's strategy season.
I suppose it is, yeah.
But,
no, I think it's more a case of Halo Reach being strategic than... I don't think Civ release date had anything to do with...
Yeah. And the argument I was making before was I was a bit surprised that Reach came out as early as it did in the year, and didn't go for the Christmas spot. It's going to sell, and it's going to sell ridiculously well, but...
Yeah.
I think it's because there was
compared to something like Mass Effect 2...
There's not many games that are out at the moment.
I guess, but I can't... Yeah, it just seems weird because Halo was targeted the Christmas period on every previous game. and it's a bit of an interesting one for them to come
Maybe
out
they're
early.
secretly making another Halo.
Well, I don't know. Have they had much of a not? Yeah, maybe they are. But that'll be the magnificent surprise. Oh, we didn't see that one coming. I forgot where I was going now. Shit.
Maybe Microsoft want them to stand out of the way of the Kinect so that everyone buys Kinect.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what? That's a good idea. Because I was wondering, has Reach had much of an ad presence?
A bit.
It's had a bit.
It had those
okay.
live action ads, didn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw. I only ever saw them on the internet, but I think
No, I haven't seen them.
I've seen some on the TV.
It
Okay.
didn't have as many as because Halo 3 had that sort of model campaign, didn't it? The little models of the
the diorama.
Yeah, that was quite diorama, and that was quite a big thing. So it's not nearly.
It was
as
really
big
well
as
done
that.
though as well.
I've seen
Yeah,
some
that was cool.
cinematic Halo Reach adverts on TV.
Yeah, I actually
Yeah.
bumped into the company that made those.
Okay.
So it was at the broadcast convention a couple of weeks ago. So that was weird. But those dudes made Halo. The ads.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Halo's always been good on its marketing side, and it's
Well, Microsoft in general.
in general are very good at marketing. Yeah. Did you see do you remember about the Halo 3 dioramas that they didn't just do the diorama ads? They did spoof documentaries on the guy making the diorama.
I don't remember those.
It was like a making of video, but it was done with the guy sort of reminiscing about the fight that he was reproducing in this diorama.
Okay.
It was very clever, very clever.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, I think I remember something like that.
I don't think I've seen it.
That's kind of cool. Anyway,
It wasn't one of the ones they sort of pushed to big screen. It was one of the sort of internet-only passing things, but it was still pretty cool.
So Zach, have you had enough talking of Civ 5 for the time being? I'm sure there'll be plenty of
Say
more
yes.
discussion.
Well, I could probably go on forever, but I've already. This has been a terrible waffle. I couldn't get my thoughts in order nearly enough to actually say,
Okay.
I've still played it for 33 hours, so I mean, after I've complained about it for so long, take from that what you will. It still takes
well, it
forever to
wasn't-
finish a game. I guess you can
So you don't
infer
think you've
that much.
described? You don't think you've described it at bird's eye level then just yet? It was. It was.
I want to know. I want to know whether you'd rather have spent those 33 hours playing a game of Civ 4. I mean, would you? That's the bottom line, I think.
Well, I mean, Civ 5 is new. That gives it some points.
Well, I know.
It's something new and different to do.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
People have been saying, like, after 2 or 3 playthroughs that they're like, oh, I'm done with this,
Ugh, they're just being drama queens, aren't they?
Well, this is
They're not done with it.
It's like you have to subtract a certain amount of drama from these comments. But I mean, people. I just don't get
Subtract
it.
the drama.
It's too many positive reviews compared to like how much people are complaining.
Well, that's
Well,
because
see-
professional
see-
game critics don't have time to play Civilization. They've got other games to play.
That is true.
It's the
They
same
can
with
probably get
reviews of
through a game.
MMOs. You can't review an MMO.
You can't review an MMO. No,
Yeah.
not unless
So-
you're an actual player of it, and at which point you probably are enjoying it anyway.
If you pay
To be honest,
enough
something
money
like
to play
Civilization.
something.
Exactly. Something like Civilization is as close as you can get to a game that takes that much investment, and that isn't an MMO. They're very hard to review, and I can understand why everyone's giving it good scores, because they probably haven't played Civilization for years, and they suddenly went, oh crap, this is awesome. And then
And
they'll
it's
have
pretty.
and they'll play about 2 games, because that's all the time they'll have, and then they'll have to go on and play something else and write something else,
I wonder if
So,
some of
yeah.
these reviewers then go back after they've written it and go back and play some of the original games. And
But they don't have
Some
time
people
to do that.
do that.
I don't know. Yeah, well, you never know. They might. They have free time.
Re-review it.
Game playing is like the job for them. So in their free time, maybe they play other games that aren't in their field. Or
Well, sometimes you even get like PC Gamer would do a look back on thing where someone would play an old game and then there'd be a sort of segment on it, which was kind of cool.
Oh, I like
quite
those.
that.
That's quite a good idea. Retrospectively reviewing a game is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a formal review. It was more like a thoughts on, which I prefer in general anyway. That's why I like podcasts like this. But yeah, that was a good feature.
Was that a self plug there?
That was pretty awesome.
Sorry?
That was almost unnoticeable.
Yeah, until you commented on it.
Yeah, totally. It's my job. Captain
Undermining
Obvious.
ourselves. It's always
Oh, yeah,
good.
damn right. Shall we do the news?
Do we have some?
Can I talk about what I've been playing?
Yeah, we probably do.
I wondered if I
Otherwise
wanted
we'll
to
run out of time
quickly...
again.
I don't know. I wondered if I wanted to quickly interject with something short, snappy things rather than
Okay,
another
something
long,
exciting.
long one. Yeah,
Go on.
well, not particularly exciting. I only have 2 points that I really want to bring up. One of
Go
which
on.
is BitTrip Beat is coming to iPhone.
Oh, I heard
Which I
about
think
this.
is awesome because that's a pretty good. The
it
game
good?
concept is pretty awesome. Well, I've played the demo on Wii. I haven't played the full thing. I'll be honest. And it's coming to iPhone tomorrow or today by the time this is uploaded, and it's like Pong meets Res. It's
Is
pretty
that
cool.
Okay? I'm gonna have to check it out. We'll put,
But yeah,
is
it's
it
on
like
iPad and
£5 or
iPhone.
something?
I think so. It might be too expensive to be honest, but
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
for what it is, it's probably too expensive to be honest. But
Right.
speaking of which, I have the same thoughts about Sonic 4, which is where my next point was going. They've
Okay.
It's going to
announced
be too
not only
expensive.
release dates, which are pretty soon, a couple of weeks. It'll be
Ooh.
out, which is awesome. Except it's
Suddenly.
1,200 points, like I feared.
1,200.
Or-
This
a
thing that they're
tenner
calling an
on-
episode.
Or I think it's a tenner on PSN and stuff for something they're calling an episode that isn't a full Sonic game. It's only 4 zones. Don't forget.
Right.
That
Son of a
sounds a bit of a rip, if you don't
I mean,
mind me
they're
saying.
already.
It's-
Have you? I mean, have you?
But how long are the zones?
We don't know. We
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know at this stage if the zones are longer. Presumably the demo
So
when
they're
it
going
comes
to be
out will
3
shed some light,
acts.
but they are 3 acts per zone. And apparently, I think they've structured it in that it's 3 acts and then a separate boss fight.
Not
was
the
the
old
impression
Act
I-
3 being the boss fight.
Yeah, that was the impression I got, but I could be wrong on that. I'll be straight with you. I might be wrong on that front, but that was the impression I got from some of the previews.
I mean, people are already angry at Sega because they're selling a bad port, complete with bugs of Sonic Adventure 1 for something like full price or something. I don't know what it was, what the price
No,
was,
it's
but
it's like
it's a complete rip-off, apparently.
it's
It's a really old game.
I think it's 1,200 as well, actually. 1,200
Yeah,
or
1,200
1,500,
for
which
Sonic
is like a tenner.
Adventure.
But
But when,
I don't know.
wasn't
For an
it-
Explorer
wasn't it-
game, that's not a bad price, though. Really, for
weren't they saying that,
something as big as that.
Weren't they saying that the 1,200 point thing you can buy is just Sonic Adventure, and then they're going to release the DX edition as
Yeah, that's
an
right.
expansion to
That's
it?
already
That's right.
out.
You have to pay more to get this sort of.
Director's
That's
cut.
The fixed
Yeah.
version.
Anyway, so Sonic 4. God, do you think they'll charge that much every time, or for
Well,
like episode 2?
It
It's
sounds like
how,
it, doesn't it?
how many
It's-
episodes could there possibly be? There's only got to be 2, surely. Then that makes it the standard 8-stage Sonic game.
The standard number of zones is 6.
Well,
Right.
most of the time.
So this is
Yeah.
2/3 of a Sonic game, effectively.
Basically, yeah. And they're
They might
charging.
do
The
an
second, they can't
epilogue.
make the second
Yeah.
episode shorter. That would be.
No, it'll
Ridiculous.
be like an epilogue thing.
2/3 of a Sonic game for a tenner, a brand new one. Maybe
I don't know.
okay.
Unless
it's
there's
good,
unless
you
there's
know.
more add-ons to it, unless the core gameplay, if the core gameplay is all they've put in, if
Or
there's
they
nothing
make
like
the zones bigger.
yeah, if unless the zones are really quite long, which would be cool. Don't get me wrong, that
Yeah,
would be
they
pretty
might
cool. Yeah, they've made some weird decisions as well, like the fact that in order to play the game continuously, the user has to make a choice at the end of every level to carry on. So the
Right.
traditional way of playing Sonic is gone. Although, admittedly, that's probably been gone for some time, even in the DS versions. But
Right.
it's still for a game that's trying to be retro. They've changed the way to play hardcore. It's still there, and they made a fanfare of the fact it's still there. But you have to trigger it yourself at the end of each level to play it that style. It's like that should just be a hardcore mode or something, and you can.
Oh, wait, I see
play
what
it
you mean
properly.
now. I was like
Yeah,
trying to
the
work
fact
out what the
that-
fuck you were talking about.
Well, the
I
fact
was
that,
like,
yeah, the
oh.
fact that yeah, I mean the fact that it doesn't go back to the world map after each act.
Yeah, like that was when I worked out when you said the DS games, where it's like, oh yeah, because they had a map thing
Yeah.
in between the levels.
They
Yeah.
started splitting it out, didn't they? In that.
They tried to make it Mario-like.
Yeah. Well, the world maps have existed in Sonic games before, but they've never been functional.
Yeah, but if you think classic
'cause
Sonic,
old Sonic
it
games
is
never-
without the world map.
Yeah, classic Sonic is just the straight hardcore
Yeah.
run, beginning to end.
Yeah, and
Because
it's
they
just
never
a
tried
run.
to have they never tried to have some kind of story outside of the levels. It was like, oh look, there's Robotnik. You fight him and then he flies off. So obviously you're going to chase him some more.
Yeah.
It's just a run. It's a chase.
It makes sense though in terms of the simplicity of the game. So it's, I don't know. My concern, as a Sonic fan, my concern level has been raised with this.
Well,
it was already pretty high.
It's already, I mean, you can't really, expectations. Expectations have been raised for Sonic 4. It's true, but really, if you're a true Sonic fan, your expectations should be at bottom, and they have been for about 5 years. So anything that they do that's good is a plus, really. To be honest.
No, actually, they'll be on the up because of Sonic Unleashed, which was a turnaround. It started pushing Sonic back in the direction it should be. It's still not great, but it was some significant improvements.
I just like the fact that it's 2D.
Yeah, the fact that it's 2D is nice. Although on that note, I'm actually probably more interested now in Sonic Colors than I am Sonic 4.
Ooh.
Which is on the Wii. It's basically their new take on Sonic Unleashed. It's like Unleashed 2, but they've taken the werehog out, so it's all Sonic all the time, and which is nice.
It's always good.
But are they certain? Yeah. There's not going to be any other characters.
Well, yeah, they've said that several times, haven't they? Oh, it's a Sonic game. It's a Sonic game. Introducing Silver the Hedgehog. Oh, fuck off.
They must be so annoyed. They must be like, Nintendo turned Link into a wolf, and everyone thinks it's great, and we turn Sonic into a wolf. Everyone thinks it's crap. What are we doing wrong? Poor Sonic team.
Yeah. Although, probably the thing, and Zach will probably agree with me on this, Sonic Colors DS is pretty much a new Sonic Rush game.
Great. Okay.
Well,
which is fantastic news.
I'm still worried about the fact that there is like a DS version of this game of the same name, where it's like, this is a proper game, and then here's the DS version of it. That always worries me. Where it's like,
well, they've got the same stages,
cut back or whatever.
They've got the same stages, but I think that's interesting because Dimps did work on the Wii version of Sonic Unleashed, because the stage designs were slightly different apparently in the Wii version of the game. So if Dimps are working on the Rush title like they did before, or the DS version of Colors, then maybe their efforts have been split too much, or maybe they've had a boost in their department thanks to their sort of well-received
success, relatively speaking.
Relative success, yeah. You're right. It might not. It probably won't be as good as the original Rush, which is still my favourite, but out of the new ones anyway. But it's probably won't be as good as that, but it will still be relatively entertaining, I reckon.
As long as they don't change the mechanics too much. Because
as far as I can tell, the boost mechanic is still there. The only thing they've added is the wisps, which are the one-off special abilities you can pick up throughout the course of a level.
It's like,
which again doesn't sound too bad. It's adding an extra layer, and that was kind of what the shields used to do in Sonic 3. So
I just think that's what they need to bring into into like the non-2D Sonic games. The whole like boost and trick mechanics.
Yeah, maybe.
Because that's awesome. It was like
it's a bit too mashy, I think. I don't think it's necessarily required to the level they have in Rush and Rush 2, where it's just kind of trick, do it all the fucking time till your thumbs bleed.
Yeah, that's probably true. You don't need to like be doing multiple tricks per jump as you're flying through the air. Just go trick.
It just looks retarded as well, and the sound can get quite irritating sometimes with the cheering noise and the yeah, whoa, yeah, cool.
Basically, yeah. But I mean, ever since like Sonic Advance 2, where they had the whole trick system, that was the awesome one of the GBA games, basically. And they must have realised, because then they brought it into Rush.
Oh yeah, hang on, sorry. I was forgetting what tags I need to write down. Yeah, sorry.
It's a bit like Jet Set Radio, isn't it? Like the tricks aren't really important, but they sort of speed you up. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, they could conceivably make a game that revolves more around the tricks. They could make it more complicated than just pushing a button or whatever.
Yeah,
it'd be like a skateboarding game or something.
Yeah, like Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk's dead anyway, so why not?
Yeah. Tony Sonic.
What is
Tony the Hedgehog?
That'd be the new character, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Tony Hawk suddenly turns up in the Sonic universe, and you're like,
as a hawk. Lol.
Yeah,
as a hawk. Tony the Hawk.
I I wonder if they've gone back to the Mobius storyline as well in Sonic 4, because that would be cool.
God,
There's no offense to our wonderful planet, but fuck Earth. It's
every time they try to do Earth, firstly, they always just fail at making people look like people, which instantly shatters any perception that this might be Earth.
God.
And then it's like, oh look, Station Square! Where the fuck is that?
Yeah, Sonic Adventure 2 got around that a little bit by not having many people.
And just having like voices coming out of giant robots.
Yeah,
Pyramids
basically.
and things.
Pyramid rocket stations, yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and oh look, it's a shuttle, therefore this must be Earth, and it's coming out of the pyramid, because that totally makes sense.
And it's the moon.
It's the same as that Bond film, isn't it? That terrible Moonraker, where it has shuttles coming out of Aztec pyramids or something. It's like the worst Bond film ever made, which has that brilliant line where it's like, "Hello, I'm Dr. Goodhead." He's like, "A woman." Which is the best Roger Moore line ever. Because Adam and Joe on Six Music used to just say that occasionally. A woman. It's just so funny. Anyway, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, sorry, I'm done with my news segment.
Okay.
Unless anyone else has any quick
dribs
of interest. Oh, LBP2 delayed. Not going to make Christmas anymore.
Yeah.
That sucks.
It's bad. Yeah.
2 new characters on Street Fighter 4.
Ooh, new characters on Street Fighter.
How many are he up to now?
A lot.
They're adding 2 new ones, Yin and Yang, from Street Fighter 3.
Which virtually no one played.
I played it.
Street Fighter 3 isn't really the popular one, let's be honest.
Yes, but it was revolutionary because they had a parry system.
Okay, which exists in 4 still.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, doesn't it?
No.
Okay. Well, that's how much I played it.
Yeah. That tells you what we know about fighting games.
So
All we
yeah,
know is that we have
parry
Captain
system
America.
Basically,
Captain America
instead-
in Marvel vs. Capcom. It's like, I've lost my fucking shield! Yeah, that's about as far as my knowledge of that goes.
I'm so excited about Marvel vs. Capcom
3, is it? Yeah.
There's Deadpool, and he in the demo he uses his life bar to whip your ass.
What, so you can just sort of Hirikari like in Tekken?
Well, Deadpool's a Marvel character that breaks the 3rd wall.
Interesting.
He always talks to the viewer.
To the player.
Yeah,
Oh,
the fourth
wall,
wall,
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
even.
because there's the wall at the back and the 2 walls at
Yes.
the side of the stage, and then the 4th wall is the one in front between you and the audience, I presume.
Yeah, and
Anyway,
to break the 4th wall in a game, he basically uses the life bar on the top of the
Right,
screen.
so he actually uses the HUD.
Yeah, and he
That's cool.
grabs it and then just hits you with it.
That's really cool.
It's meant to be something about his character as well, isn't it? That he he doesn't agree with knocking people out or something. He wants to kill them. So he's like, oh, what is this life bar shit?
He's a very extreme character. It's either one extreme or the other.
That's kind of cool, actually. Yeah. Making an already fucking mental game super fucking mental.
Well, the whole videos I've seen of it just looks insane, which is what you want, really.
It's
almost like an Asblue.
Well, that's why Smash Brothers is appealing, because it's fucking
Smash Brothers.
Smash Brothers.
oh, I want to play that.
Super Smash Brothers.
Melee.
Laying down the prams.
Yeah. Well, what more do you want? You have Wolverine versus Mega Man versus Chris Redfield versus Dante.
There's something sounds out of place in that sentence, doesn't it? It's like Mega Man versus Wolverine versus Chris Redfield.
Well, as long as Dante has white hair, then we'll be all right.
Yeah, it's real Dante and not the baggy one.
I don't get that remake shit. But
Well, it's meant to be
it's not
a prequel
It's
of
not
the
as
prequel.
bad as like when they completely changed the character. What was that game? Prototype, isn't it? Or where they're making a sequel and like they've just completely changed the character.
No, it wasn't Prototype. It was the other one.
Yeah, the other one. Yeah, Infamous. Yeah, and they've just completely changed the. I still want to play Infamous actually, this one, because I heard it's really good on the PS.
Yeah, it is really good, but it gets repetitive.
Right. Okay.
Because
maybe.
that's the same as I heard from the review world. That was generally the consensus as well, in that it is very good. The concept is very well realised, but can get boring.
I've read some previews about the new one, and it does look quite good. And about the thing you said, it not looking the same character, they have heard people's complaints and they have changed that.
It's all back.
That's like backpedaling.
Yeah.
But they, instead of having long hair or longer hair, they've just basically gave him a little bit more hair.
It's not like when they tried to emo up Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
Oh, that was hilarious.
So
Anyway.
it,
New section, by the way. Like we had it last week, didn't we? With the this is corrections of things that we said wrong in the previous podcast.
Oh,
What do we do
fuck up
now?
now?
I have one that's for me. That's okay. It's just I said, and it's an obscure one. I said that Hobbes, the philosopher type guy, was German. He was in fact English. There you are. End of section.
So I guess it's of Greece and German were total fails, basically.
Well, I thought because I was thinking of Calvin was French, you see, but and I thought Hobbes was German for some reason because I thought it was all coming from Europe, but I don't think
because English isn't very philosophical, obviously.
Yeah. Anyway, so Hobbes was
Fucking lager.
Hobbes was English, and he lived until he was like 91, which is pretty amazing considering the time he lived in. Something like that. Anyway, that may be wrong. I may have to correct that next week.
It's a never-ending correction.
Wikipedia.
Yes. So end of that section.
Coming
Also,
up next week, apologies.
Right. I shall.
Now for what
begin-
Dan's been playing, because
Yes,
God, we've
what have I been
been going on
playing?
forever.
Well, since last time, I was at yours, Rob, for quite a while, so I had use of your PS3. Oh, it's nice.
Thief.
Sorry?
Thief.
Thief? Okay. Yes, I was stealing while you were
No one
away
played
at
any
work.
Thief.
No, nobody played Thief, sadly.
No.
I played a bit of Wipeout HD. That was quite fun, I must say. It's a good game. I mean, I still think those games on the PSP were probably some of the best Wipeout games that were ever made, and this is effectively the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much the same tracks. It looks really nice.
Well,
And,
it is the same tracks.
Yeah, and it runs really smoothly, which is totally key for Wipeout. I mean, I can't think of any game that would really need like that pure silkiness more, apart from maybe Quake or something. Definitely.
I don't think Wipeout had it apart from the PC versions of the first two.
No,
before,
it never
'cause it always
used
used
to.
to run at 30
Yeah.
on most things, and it's probably less than that on the PSP. The PSP struggles a little bit with Wipeout at
Yeah.
times, to be honest. But yeah, so the jump to 60 frames per second makes the game. If they ever go back on that, which they have done for 3D, it's a bad idea.
Yeah, but it just it was really fun, and I knew some of the tracks, and and the what's it called? The pure mode, is it? No, what's it called when you go? Oh, Zone. That's it, Zone. Yeah, that's really great on, especially the way the whole track changes color. Like it looked really cool on the PSP one. I still think that's probably one of the best games on the PSP was Wipeout Pure.
Did you ever use a 6-axis to steer?
No,
Oh,
no,
God.
no.
No,
Just
don't
went
do that.
straight for the. I just used.
They've altered the thing so you can do the sensitivity.
Oh, that's cool.
Altered
right.
sensitivity.
I haven't touched Wipeout in a while, and they do keep updating it periodically, so
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see what's new. Although
That's
I'd
one
love to
thing I
see some more
liked.
tracks. Another expansion, please. Or a brand new game that was a proper full-fledged title rather than a download would be good, because the number of tracks is the only limiting factor.
Yeah, I mean they did do a pack, didn't they? The Fury pack.
Yeah,
or whatever,
Fury.
so
Yeah,
that's
but it only
good.
had 4 proper tracks in it, to be honest, and a
Right,
load of
okay.
zone-specific tracks. But
Because that was actually one of the amazing things about Wipeout Pure, actually, was despite being a portable game, that and being quite a few years ago now, at least 4 or 5, that had a lot of downloadable content before it was called
a
DLC.
lot of it was free.
Yeah, it was mostly free, and it doubled the number of tracks, I think, and you could stick them on that little memory stick. And that was great. I mean...
Well, some of them were really cool, because they had some really weird graphic designers come in and do, like... advertising tracks, but they were really fucked up. Like there was one that went through like Domokun style mouths and things, and drove through the innards of stuff. And but it was all done in cartoon graphics. And although it was a bit out of place for Wipeout, the rest of the Wipeout world kind of adjusted. Like the crafts were rendered in a different way, and the weapon effects were different. It was
If they
changed that as
had
well.
level editor like they do for Little Big Planet.
Oh hell's yeah! Wipeout Planet.
Yeah, Wipeout Planet. And you can just make it so much better than
That would be great because me and Zach. Yeah, exactly. Zach says we used to play this really old RC racing game, which was N64 era, but the PC version was by far the best because you could customize everything. Admittedly, it wasn't really part of the true game, but there were some very, very simple cheat codes basically to get into the underbelly of the game, and it even had a track editor built in. But you could use those tracks you'd made in the editor, and they were saved out to a track file with textures and everything. So you could go and fuck with the textures, which was your starting point. And then there was an ini file which set like world parameters, like the fog color and things like that. And you could even fuck it up so you could make radiation effects, like we did for the nuclear city, which was cool. Green fog with a weird sort of glowy texture around the car when you go too deep into it. That was awesome. But then you could also go one step further and use the game to put objects from the rest of the game into your own handmade levels. It was a developer tool that you could use to make the levels awesome, and it was incredible. And I don't think there's been a racing game that we've been quite so addicted to because of it.
Yeah, that would be good for Wipeout, I suppose, a bit of a level editor, because you could start the level creation by having like a customizable sort of almost a version of the F-Zero track generator from back years ago, because it needs to be a sort of smooth line, doesn't it, or curve or whatever. So you can use that
for F-Zero, although that went wrong quite a lot, which was funny in X.
An improved version of that.
The X Cup in F-Zero X, where it occasionally went wrong and made right-angled corners in 2 dimensions. They didn't just turn in the normal sort of as you'd expect a corner to go. They suddenly went 90 degrees vertically as well or something, and causing all the computer players to fall off the track, which was brilliant.
Actually, I recently saw something on the internet where in Germany they made a real-life Wipeout track.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I saw that, yeah. And with remote control or whatever.
With a remote control car.
That's awesome.
With a camera on it, so you'd be playing it on the screen, and you'll be controlling a remote control car.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it made sense to make a Wipeout track because it has those like wide sides or whatever that stop you from falling out.
I can't help but feel maybe I'm too old for that, but at the same time, I'm still sitting here going, "That is so cool."
Well, it was kind of all made out of cardboard and stuff. It wasn't like a proper toy or anything. It was this huge thing in a big warehouse or something. So
it was still awesome.
It was awesome. It was way too big for somebody's house or something. It was really cool.
Well, you could fit it in the garage.
Yeah, probably. It'd be like a model train set, wouldn't it? Except way cooler.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was what.
So that was large scale ones for the high speed RC cars. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Especially if you can do a loop-de-loop ones.
Yeah.
I wonder what it's like to drive one of those little RC cars, the petrol-powered ones, with like a camera on it. I mean, it'd probably be really bumpy, wouldn't it?
And you can actually steer it with a steering wheel.
Yeah, from a PC or something. It's probably easier just to look at it, I suppose.
The handling will be all weird, won't it? Because RC cars sort of like lose control in an instant, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, that's true.
So it'll be a bit weird. But talk Uncharted, for the love of God.
So, yes. I've been waiting for you guys to stop talking.
Well, admittedly, I stopped you before, but...
Yeah. Anyway, so yes, the main game I was playing was Uncharted 2, which I played through straight in a week because I knew that once I got here I wouldn't be able to. So, yes, I played through that. And I have to say, it did live up to a lot of the hype that I'd heard about it. I mean... It's really good. I mean, it is. What struck me was that, like, I used to think that this is a completely different game, but Knights of the Old Republic, I thought that was a better entertainment product than all of the prequel Star Wars films combined, right? It was the best thing that had happened to Star Wars since The Empire Strikes Back came out. That good in terms of story and just in general as a Star Wars thing. It was fantastic. And Uncharted, I think, is like better in every way as an entertainment product than Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. You know, it's just better.
You're not really setting your sights high with Crystal Skulls and Shia LaBeouf.
I'm not saying it's similar in the same way that I'm saying KOTOR is leagues way better than all the prequel Star Wars. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that like it's better than a Hollywood film, you know? And a lot better. It's got better writing, but it's got better acting and things. And like, I mean, the amazing thing about it, of course, that everyone talks about, but that's the key thing, is the so-called. They actually have a name for it, as I discovered when I started watching the kind of behind the scenes that I unlocked once I finished the game. There's a few videos. I don't know if you've watched any of those.
Some of them,
yeah. Yeah, quite. But what they're so-called active cinematic experiences, which is basically an action scene where you actually have control rather than it just, like most games used to be, where it just cuts to a cutscene and something dramatic happens, you know. Obviously, they have a rule, which is if anything cool is happening action-wise, the player is in control. That is the key to it. I mean, there's a lot of great cutscenes with great acting and stuff, but never anything happens dramatically action-wise without you being directly in control. And that is absolutely key. And it just, no one's really done that before. I mean, they have. I mean, Half-Life has done sort of, the Half-Life dictum is never ever take control away at all, isn't it? But you can't, with a first-person
Most of the time,
perspective.
you just like, in Half-Life, you just sort of stand there and look at it.
Yeah, exactly. You look at it. So it's like, oh, there's something falling down or something, or a giant thing, and you're just looking at it or whatever. So it's great that it doesn't take your control away, but you're not actually participating really in the action scene beyond the general shooting stuff.
And not getting crushed by something.
Exactly.
Stand here and maybe move out of the way.
Whereas Uncharted, a whole building falls down, and you are in control while the building topples over, and you run and jump into another building and smash through glass and everything. That's all completely in your control.
Yeah, I was actually struggling to think of a moment where, because a bit in my head is saying, "Oh, come on, there must be a bit where that happens," but I'm struggling to think of one.
Yeah,
maybe you're right. Maybe it is every time something cool happens.
Yeah. Every time something
it's
cool
only
happens,
the dialogue that cuts out, isn't it? And the actual story progression.
And that is interesting too, because you could think for a moment, okay, you could take it one step further and do the Half-Life thing and have it so you're never out of control. But the cutscenes are really good, and I think that these are two things. There's the active cinematic experiences, which are fantastic, and I hope everyone copies that. And the other thing I hope in the game industry that everyone copies from Uncharted 2 is the way they did the cutscenes, because I looked at the special features and stuff, and the way they did it was they had the actors all in the mocap stuff, not for doing action scenes or anything, but they had them in mocap just for acting, doing a scene, like where Nathan Drake's on the bed and Chloe's on top of him and all that stuff. No, or whatever, a scene like that, or they're sitting around a table discussing their mission or whatever. They're all mocapped up, and they recorded all their sound and voices at the same time they were doing the actions. So they were just acting like in a play, and that makes such a difference to from an animated, the normal style where people are in a voice booth and they're just talking, and then they animate it afterwards. You've got the whole performance there from the actor, and I think it's fantastic, because once they had all the information from the mocap, this is the great, really cool thing if you're like a film nerd, is that they could do the shots and choose the framing of the shots after they'd recorded the performance, so they could choose their camera angles because they had all the 3D information, and they had the room, which was in the computer engine, the game engine.
Do you reckon they took a similar approach on Avatar, thanks to the full 3D environment? Or
yeah, probably they could have done, couldn't they? I mean, it takes so long to render a frame for Avatar, although I don't know. Yeah, they probably could.
Well, apparently James Cameron could see the entire scene in a pre-render state, admittedly, so he could plan shots and stuff with the environment they had planned viewable to him in real time. So presumably they're using a similar technique to that, but actually they probably got there first, didn't they? And depending on how long Avatar took to make, but blah.
That's true, because with Avatar that would only work for the scenes that were completely CGI, as in when Jake Sully was the blue guy, because that wouldn't work for the actual live action bits, would it? Because you'd have to film that. But those bits, yeah, maybe. But it was really interesting because they could change, like they were showing in the Uncharted, where they could change the contrast and the lighting, everything after the fact. But the interesting thing is that they've got these performances, and I think that these are, in Uncharted 2, they're the best performances ever in a computer game from actors, I think. I don't think they're necessarily the best actors. Oh, okay. But I think that the fact that they had this technology to be able to do this enabled them to give a performance that was better than any voice.
There's only one in my mind that can beat Uncharted acting.
Mark Hamill in Wing Commander.
Of course.
Actually, Mark Hamill in Arkham
Batman.
Asylum,
Yeah.
was really good. Yeah,
Exactly.
So, is that the one?
And
you're
also
thinking of?
the ones in Heavy Rain as well are pretty good.
Oh, I haven't played that. Yeah, I'll have to.
Because
I wonder-
they actually do show quite a lot of emotion in the mocap.
Oh, okay.
I think
Maybe that was done with
presumably they
similar
use
technique.
presumably they use facial mocap, do they, to do the, or is that all
In
animated?
Heavy Rain, they use facial mocap. But
Because that generally requires wearing a massive rig on your face.
yeah, they show lots of extras after you complete the game in Heavy Rain, and it's basically lots of even more mocap on your face than, say, Avatar.
Wow, that's going itself.
That's really cool. I must play Heavy Rain, but Uncharted, like some of the the environments are absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's probably the best looking game on a console that I've played, I would say.
Well, they haven't gone for the realistic look in places. It's almost
No.
too nice in places, if you see what I mean.
No.
But some of the effects are so nice. Some of the
Yeah.
effects are really good. Like I love the wet clothing thing. I mean, that
Yeah,
sounds wrong
that's really
coming out of
cool.
my mouth, but it's
I just love the
Rather than
end
coming out
if
somewhere
there's
else.
people who doesn't mind spoilers. At the very-
Spoiler alert!
We can't do spoilers, can we? But,
How long has this game been out? Is it 3 months yet?
Oh, it's
It's
been a while.
over a year. Over a
Okay.
year. now.
Well, we should be good then.
Yeah, at the very end when Nathan is running towards the screen and the bridge is just falling behind
Yeah,
him.
yeah. I know
That
a
was
bit.
probably the
That's
best.
not really a spoiler. That happens several times throughout the game. So.
Yeah, but it's just
It was a really
it
cool
looks
sequence.
so good because
Yeah.
you see the background where it's like a fiery island.
Yeah. And the bridge is going, and everything in the background is still collapsing as
Yeah.
well. And
It's absolutely beautiful. Some of the environments and like is one of the. I'm quite jaded when it comes to cutscenes. Set pieces in games because I saw that Call of Duty. When you go across the river to Stalingrad and all that stuff. I saw that years ago, and that was very impressive at the time. But these days, there's kind of cutscene stuff where, But Uncharted made me go whoa sometimes. Actually properly like I think in that monastery level where there was like 4 towers and they all had snipers on, and I was shooting at them, and one of them had an RPG guy on, so I shot the RPG guy, and his RPG went off funny, and the whole tower collapsed, which I wasn't expecting at all, and I just went, whoa, because it just looked so cool, and it was all happening in real time, and I know that's a normal thing, and that happens, like, things fall over, big things fall over in,
But not when someone causes it.
generally not in reaction to something you've done, isn't it? Like,
well, I mean,
the
you
one
think
that
of
sprung to
something like
mind
Red
there was,
Faction, or something.
or
Guerrilla
the start of
something.
Gears of War came to mind there, where there's a cutaway where you can see a building destroying right at the start of the game, and it looks
Yeah.
very good, but it's completely out of your hands. And it's,
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that you did that, and sometimes the one of the great things about the voice performances in that is they were allowed to improvise, and some of the ad lib lines are really funny.
Some of the incidental sounds are very good, although it does occasionally suffer from the "they've seen us" thing.
Yeah, sometimes, but it's not
Still
quite
classic.
one less, is it? No, it's close.
No.
But sometimes they break the fourth wall and point out things about the gameplay mechanics that are a bit silly, but it's quite knowing, isn't it? Like, oh god, I've been climbing for ages and stuff like that, which is really funny. Because that's one thing, he climbs a lot, but I noticed it. Whereas, if you play Tomb Raider or something, I don't know, you don't even think about the fact that she's getting tired, do you?
Yeah.
But Nathan
No,
Drake
yeah,
is
in
such a
Uncharted, it's properly stupid, isn't it? Because even after you get shot and you're bleeding out, you're still pretty capable. And
yeah,
it's
he's
like,
very capable.
And it's
But,
it's
it's the
a
fact
bit
that-
jarring, isn't it, at times, where it's just like, you're supposed to be dying, or you're supposed to be knackered, and it's like, you're still climbing epic faces and not getting tired or needing to stop.
I also love
But
the way the character reacts to these situations where he's just like,
Yeah.
why does this always happen to me?
Yeah, exactly. All these little things. But I think the fact that you're noticing that he's doing these amazing things and he's just been shot and stuff is something that you probably wouldn't have noticed if the character hadn't been so well realized.
Yeah.
You believe in him as a person, whereas other video game characters you just see as your avatar.
Yeah.
And I think
And he's the unlikely hero because he doesn't want to be a hero, but he just
always ends up being it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they mention it in the game when Chloe just says, "Why do you always have to be the damn hero?"
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not trying.
I mean, there's quite a few times in the game where you say "whoa" or something, and then Nathan Drake will say the exact thing that you just said to yourself, which is really spooky sometimes. It's like, oh god, not another one, you think, and then he says, oh god, not another one, and it's just it's really like it when
I love
happens,
the stuff in mid combat. He says because that's usually really good. Like when a combat sequence starts and you reload your gun ready, and he's just like, okay, and
or when he shoots someone in the head and goes, all right,
that's gonna hurt. And,
but that okay one, Rob, because you get into cover and he's just right, okay, and that's exactly what you're thinking, isn't it? Just before combat, you're like, oh god, there's combat. And
he mimics some of my reactions as well. Like you'll get a ridiculous kill on someone. Like you'll shoot the grenade off him or something. And he blows himself up, and Nathan will just sit there going,
Yeah.
Did you ever play it on multiplayer, Dan?
Not yet. I only got a chance to play.
I'll be honest, I haven't touched that either.
Oh, really?
Not something I'm that interested in. I know you've told me it's good before.
It's the best console multiplayer on the PlayStation 3 anyway.
On the PlayStation. I was going to say, hold on there. You're touching heavy ground.
Okay, I'll admit, I'll just say Xbox do multiplayer a lot better than
Halo.
A lot better. But Uncharted 2, they really did go the full length on making multiplayer.
That's controversial, so you'd go further than Modern Warfare, would you?
Yes, definitely.
Then again, for me, that's not that hard, but it's generally considered the...
On PlayStation 3, Uncharted 2 is the best multiplayer.
Wow.
I'll go
that's worth a shot. Because I was always intrigued by kill zones, but found myself not able to get into it. Because of the game rules change mid-level mechanic, which is great, and I'm surprised no one has copied it. But Killzone 2 itself had weird feel, which was the only problem with it. And it's...
No, I just find Uncharted 2, when you play it on multiplayer, it's really accessible to everyone. Like, if you're a newcomer, you can still kill people, but you'll get killed more. Whereas if you play, I don't know, Halo, if you're a newcomer, you have no chance.
To a point. I mean, Halo has the skill rating system, so it tries to match it to people that have played the game as much as you do. So, and when you're starting out, you should get matched with noobs as well. So the experience should ramp with you. That's the plan, anyway. That's Microsoft's whole true skill matchmaking system that is built into Xbox Live, but
it doesn't always happen.
No, true. In Modern Warfare especially, Modern Warfare is really bad at doing that. You'll get matched with top tier players when you're just starting,
in Uncharted you get a good mix because most of the time you'll be playing in teams and you'll have the highest rank one with the lowest rank one. The only problem I have with Uncharted 2's multiplayer is one of the skins you can use for your avatar is basically a undead where you have a skeleton.
Yeah, I've seen those.
And when you're playing in multiplayer, you don't notice them.
Because they're hard to see.
They're really hard to see, especially when you're in the snow.
Are they as irritating as Oddjob from GoldenEye?
Oddjob from GoldenEye was only irritating because in order to hit him, you had to aim down, and aiming wasn't something you normally did.
Yeah, that's true. I remember.
Does Fat Drake have bigger hit zones?
I don't know. I don't think so. I haven't come across a Fat Drake.
Fat Drake is hilarious.
Everyone uses the skeleton because it's basically camo.
Yeah. Fat Drake is hilarious because in the single player game, during the main game, all his speech is pitched down. So he's like, it's really funny.
So the single player, I haven't played the multiplayer yet, but I really enjoyed the single player. There's a few things about the gameplay that weren't perfect. I mean, the climbing and stuff mechanics are great. They're not like Prince
They're
of
not
Persia
realistic.
good. No, but they're one of the things I really appreciated was like, unlike in Assassin's Creed 2, for example, when you sort of are hanging onto a ledge and you point your stick towards where you want to go, right? In Assassin's Creed 2, you just have to kind of press the button and hope he goes that way. But in Uncharted 2, he kind of points his hand out very obviously towards the ledge that you're aiming for, which is really helpful. I mean, it's not something you would actually do if you were going to do that ridiculous move, but it's kind of telegraphs exactly what you're doing, which really helps with the control. But so I really appreciated that. And the combat is... it's pretty damn good. I mean, it is, as you say, Gears of War-like. I thought it was a bit odd that for such a sort of realistic game, it was a bit funny that the enemies come in flavors and you could tell what gun they were carrying with by what uniform they were wearing. You know what I mean? The light grey guy.
Well, it makes sense to a point where the
pistol.
shotgun guys are heavily armoured because they're about to run in your face.
Yeah, that made sense. But sometimes
and the
it's
big heavy dudes carry the big heavy weapons because they're big and strong and meaty.
But I mean, just the rifle guys and the pistol guys and the sort of what are the guys with the laser sights? They're not snipers, are they? It's like
Desert Eagle guys.
Yeah.
Desert Eagle guys. Yeah, they all have very every Desert Eagle guy has the same helmet, And sometimes I thought that was a bit, but that's fine. But I thought that
Well, it's all a bit ridiculous that he has this enormous army and you, on your own, can take them all out. Let's be honest, it's a game. It's still
it's
fucking
an action
ridiculous.
film. Yeah, but that would be fine in Indiana
You're freaking
Jones.
John McClane.
Yeah, you are John McClane. It's great. I mean, that's brilliant. I mean,
And
they
the
weren't
fact that
going...
you've been in 4 different climates.
Yeah, you're still okay. No jet lag.
I thought that it really annoyed me picking up ammo. I mean, I understand that from a realism sort of point of view, but I mean, I kept picking up a different gun all the time when I wanted to just pick up the ammo for the gun I already had, and that really annoyed me. I mean, I don't know how they could solve that and make it still look good. I don't think it would have broken the game to have it so that when you walked over ammo, it just picked it up. I don't think that would have been a big problem. I think that would have improved the game, to be honest, because I found that, especially in the middle of a fight when you're trying to find the weapon you want, or you're just trying to find ammo for the weapon that you have, and you end up picking up a shotgun or something.
Maybe that's the point. Maybe the tension of the fights, half of that is the ammo count. I didn't have a problem with it, because if you ran out of ammo, it was a serious oh fuck moment, and I think that's what they were going for. And it's because you actually have to spend the effort trying to find something else in the middle of a gunfight.
I just went gung-ho and just went in and either used the shotgun or punched them.
It wouldn't change the fact that there wasn't very much ammo. It would just mean that when you're...
It depends which gun you chose.
I mean, you were AKs and M4s for the entire game, weren't you, pretty much?
Mostly. The AK is so inaccurate that the M4, you're very relieved when they start appearing.
You had to shoot with burst instead of...
Yeah, I tried that. It doesn't seem to... I mean, it gets more inaccurate the longer you hold it down, but in general, if you try with your first shot, you can with an AK in real life because it's a rifle, and or in Counter-Strike or something, your first shot ought to be on target. Yeah. And on that, it's just it starts with quite a wide circle, which compared to, say, the Lancer in Gears of War, it's quite frustrating. But
the Lancer in Gears of War is pretty inaccurate all the time.
I always just had one pistol and one big gun, and that was my way.
Well, that's how it is, isn't it? Pistol and big gun. That's how the game works, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, there's quite a few various weapons, and they were quite fun. But I mean, it's just the spectacular environments you were fighting. I mean, the fact that the mechanics aren't quite as good as Gears of War doesn't really matter when you're on a train going across an icy lake that seems to go on forever, and there's
shooting at a helicopter or
exactly. I mean, it was just so epic that some of those little niggles, they really don't matter after a while. I mean, in terms of gameplay, it's not revolutionary, apart from that active cinematic... And all that active cinematic...
We said this before. The gameplay in Uncharted basically borrows from every good game, but doesn't destroy the mechanics it steals.
And the reason why it's one of the best games out there at the moment is because of the storyline.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. No complaints at
And
all with the story.
the way that they make it into a interactive film more than
Yeah. I mean, we're talking a lot about the sequel here, but most of the same could be said for the
first
game,
one. Yeah,
let's be
exactly.
honest.
The first one,
It's not quite as technically brilliant, but
visually and story-wise, it looks
pretty much the same.
pretty much the same.
So that was my experience with Uncharted 2. I recommend you play it, and I hope that the industry take on board the active cinematic thing and also the performance motion capture thing. Both of those things, I think, should be copied.
On that
profusely.
note, just about 5 minutes warning.
Okay.
Wow, that's actually pretty early for a warning for us.
Quick.
Okay, that's enough talking about games. I
Well,
think.
we do have some news that we want to mention, like regarding
Okay, go ahead.
Uncharted, which is fairly appropriate.
Later this year, October 12th, there will be Uncharted 2 Game of the Year edition.
So for anyone who is interested in the multiplayer, it basically comes with all the multiplayer add-ons.
Yeah.
Cool.
And also there's lots of there's a motion comic that goes with it, which you normally have to get on PSN. And also lots of avatar packs for PlayStation.
So if you're going to buy that game and you haven't already, hold out for that. It's not long.
Is it being released on PS3? Is the Game of the Year edition on PS3 Classics? Because I know it's coming to that. Or
not sure.
Because it might come with a reduced price tag as well.
No, I think it's the same price.
Ah, bugger.
Like, it'll be the same price as when it first came out.
Ah.
So it won't be on Platinum.
But if you're interested in the multiplayer, get that one. If you're not, get the normal edition.
And I recommend the multiplayer because it is absolutely fantastic, especially the player levels.
Saladcast approved.
Awesome. Well, we're getting towards the end then, aren't we? Thanks very much for coming on, Ed.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been
great to have your input on the PlayStation Move and Uncharted and many other things, Gran Turismo.
Yes.
It's good to have a PlayStation gamer. Information.
Well, none of us are particularly. Well, I know I'm more Xbox than I am PlayStation. I have no qualms of revealing that intimate secret. Oh yeah, but it's.
How am I friends with you again?
Yeah, I don't know. Go on, fuck off.
No.
Well, you're very welcome to come on any time, I'm sure. We'd value your input.
On the off chance that you're somewhere where you can be recorded at a time we're doing
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
And I'd like to share my views on various games, not just first-person shooters.
I'm sure you'll get the chance. I have some comedy news from the world of Magic the Gathering.
Oh,
that's
yay,
almost relevant.
Yay.
They've changed the rules. Mana burn no longer exists.
Oh,
What?
Yep.
Then again, when did you ever get Mana Burn?
Yeah, exactly. So at first my reaction was, what? And then it was, oh yeah, it's pointless. But it means that Barlow will no longer be able to mana burn himself to death before you kill him.
That's a plus. No more
Which is a
cheap
plus.
suicide tactics.
Yeah. So yeah, and there's various other rule changes. Like they've changed the whole name of, putting things into play and all that. They've changed play to the battlefield. So you now put things onto the battlefield and remove them from the battlefield rather than leaves play and stuff like
Which is
that.
a bit more obvious. That's okay.
And also, removed from the game is now changed to exiled. So you can't go into exile. And they can be...
that makes more sense as well.
Yeah. So they've made a lot of quite cool changes. So yeah, little info from Magic. You can no longer mana burn.
Oh,
There
who
you are.
cares?
Was there any ingenious deck builds that someone had made where it was like you force your enemy to mana burn?
Yeah,
by,
yeah.
Taking
So some
over
of the-
something, taking over control of their shit or something, and
So
tapping all their
basically-
lands.
Some slight things are broken by this, which is kind of cool because people have to rethink their decks. So I don't know.
That's the only way to keep the game fresh, I suppose. For something that's as long running as Magic, it's
Exactly. But can you imagine the amount of cards they'll have to reprint to get that battlefield thing? The number of cards that say into play.
yeah.
Oh.
Well, we don't-
Like all of them.
Yeah.
Well, this is
pretty
the
much.
only reason Magic has lived longer than, say, Pokemon trading cards, is it? It's because they keep it fresh.
Yeah, it's true.
And because Pokemon is like,
Limited
Bad.
number of cards, I guess.
Oh, that too. There's only
So we
150
get to say,
Pokemon.
oh, what can we
shit.
do
Wait,
next?
no, there
I know,
isn't.
Let's make another Pokemon
Let's
game.
have 2 Charizards. It's...
Well, they did that though, didn't they?
Yeah, they
With several of the
had
cards.
one shiny one and one normal one.
Oh, and I meant 2 Charizards in one card.
Oh, right.
It's like, let's have a Pokemon team in a card.
Well, like Smash Brothers
they do that
Brawl.
on
He's the
Yu-Gi-Oh!
trainer. He's got
Yeah.
like. How did that work? You had like 3 different Pokemon that you could switch between. Is that right? In Brawl,
Yeah.
and the trainer just sort of stands behind them. in the
60
background.
seconds!
Well, thanks for joining us, guys, on another Saladcast, and I hope you enjoyed it. And next week we'll probably have more Civ 5 discussion. Wouldn't be surprised. Try and play some Halo Reach multiplayer, and we'll get back to you with another exciting edition of the Saladcast.
Exciting.
Indeed.
We have a whole 30
See, now
seconds of rollout.
Exactly.
Yeah, we tried to finish on time, and now it's like, I mean, you know, we're not going to cut this, because we just never
No,
edit.
this bit will be there, so you'll be able to hear this.
And then suddenly it will just cut out with a random sound like, ah!
Like a fool.
Like a fool. Turn out. Turn out.
Right, thanks for that.
1 second.